I was so anxious to start today's show, I forgot to put on my microphone. Hello, everyone, and welcome into our latest live broadcast. That's not obvious. Today it is the 12th of June. It's Friday. Hope you're having a great day today. Of course, it's still 2026 last I checked, and today we've got the ACEMAGIC N3A, which they say is neither a mini PC nor is it a NAS. It's a private data matrix. What's interesting to me is the number of the small mini PC manufacturers getting into the NAS space, and how many NAS reviewers don't understand what they're reviewing and hate it because they don't understand what it's for. So I'm going to try and do my best to give you my interpretation of what this is, because you're going to see a lot more of them and how they vary from mini PCs and how they vary from traditional NASs. They are both. It is a mini PC first and foremost that has multiple bays. That's as simple as that. I don't know why these other NAS reviewers can't wrap their head around the idea of having multiple bays in a NAS, but for whatever reason, they seem hung up universally on this concept. Like they can't seem to wrap their mind around it. But I'm here to explain it, and I can't help you. I can't help you wrap your mind around it. But it's slightly amusing and a little frustrating to watch reviews that completely miss the plot. But that being said, we're going to do our best here to interpret this the way I believe it is meant to be interpreted, and hopefully that will help dispel some of the misunderstanding that's happening on the side of YouTube with people reviewing these. So with that, I want to start out today's show by saying thank you to our good friend Buster out there in Scotland. Buster wants us to root for Scotland in the, I guess, FIFA, the soccer. We don't really, at least where we are, we don't really see too much about it, but he's like, root for Scotland. You got it. Rooting for Scotland. And in the meantime, you've got to be careful of about what we say, because Buster is listening. And Mara had mentioned, I was talking about some Sharpies and labeling things. I like to keep things labeled, and Mara loves her markers. And she made an offhand comment about she can never have too many markers. So what does Buster do? He sends us a bunch of markers. I think we're set for life. So in this little stack right here, we've got 128 individual pens that are like Sharpies. They're like a competitor to Sharpie. In this box here, we have some fancy pens. Look at that. See, now I'm more of a pen guy. Sharpies are fine when you want to label things and you want to make sure that the writing isn't going to fade out anytime soon, and the writing is nice and thick. Then, Mara mentioned she liked the Sharpies in all the different colors. Again, it was just an offhanded comment. And then Buster sent like every color in the rainbow of Sharpie, as well as these other markers here. And then on top of that, Buster sent me a signed framed photo of C-3PO and R2-D2. That's Kenny Baker and Anthony Daniels, the actors that play that. There's autographs around there. And sadly, Kenny Baker's not with us anymore, but still, he knows I'm a Star Wars fan, and I appreciate that very much. And in celebration of Scotland in soccer, I guess, I don't know if these games have started or what's going on. We've got these are thistle. Is that what that is? So there's earrings. I'm guessing that's for Mara. You want me to put the earrings on? Oh, and a necklace as well. So thank you so much, Buster. We also got this poster, but it's too big for me to bring out here and show you. But it's a sort of a drawing of Scotland, and then the areas within Scotland, the cities and landmarks within Scotland. So I think we're good on pens for a while. Jeez, oh man. I could use a pen. I could take a brand new pen out every other day from this box alone. And it would take me a year to get through that box. If I took the pen out, used it once, and threw it in the garbage, skipped a day, or used the pen for 2 days and then threw it away, took out another pen, that is a year's worth of, well, it's 2/3 of a year's worth of pens. If we were that, what's the word? If we just used something up, but didn't even use it up, just used it once and threw it away. Anyway, it's slightly amusing, but I'm sure Mara will actually use all of them. Yeah, I'm sure she will. So thank you for that. I don't know if it'll take her 10 years, but hopefully they won't dry out before we get to them. Let me say hello to everyone joining us here today. Scroll up through the chat here. Sean Skinner says hello, and David Herzog, David Graham, and Eddie Casanova joining us here in our chat room. There's Mark Gaines from Northern Ireland saying hello. And Ben Laird, also from Scotland, says hello. Let's see. Scrolling. Eddie Casanova saying hello, as well as Anthony SF and Richard DeFries. Hello goes out to 3D Everything and Andy W6AD. Xander Vanderhoven says hello, as well as Isaiah joining us here in our live chat room, interacting with myself and each other. There's Brian Weber saying hello. And Jim Kenny. Brian Weber renews membership, now a member for 8 months. Right on. Thank you, Brian. Happy Friday, he says. Happy Friday back at you, my friend. Bajan Guy is joining us. Dazzle555 says hello. John Rogers saying hello here in the chat room. David Graham said the USA plays tomorrow. Oh, good to know. I have no idea what the schedule is. Bajan Guy said he's a Brazilian soccer fan here. Rick Lakes joins us. Welcome into Rick. And Peter Retired says hello. Austina Valdez says hello. I also see Michael Lavelle joining us. LRCX says hello from Northern California. Bob R says hello. And I think I got everyone. Did I get everyone? If I missed you, my apologies. Kind of scrolling through this quickly. Yeah, I think I got everybody. All right. Well, I guess the first thing I need to do is clear a little bench space here. So let me just move these aside. That is a lot of pens. It's a good thing I learned how to write. All right, let me put that down. And thank you again, very kind of our friend Peter Laycock. We call him Buster. It's very thoughtful and very much appreciated. Okay, now I got a little bit more room. Now, what you can see in front of me here is the ACEMAGIC N3A. With RAM and storage being so expensive right now, as we're all aware what's going on, we won't get into the whole reasons why. I think that's been well established many months ago. We don't know when it's going to subside. It will eventually. So, this is a great opportunity for the mini PC manufacturers out of Asia, the ones that are beating everybody else at price and value. Right? If you compare Dell and HP and Lenovo prices to similar mini PCs, even Asus, they're outrageous. They're nearly twice as much money for the equivalent thing, you know, pretty much the same thing as what you can get from the Asian makers. And the Asian makers are making them for Asus too. It's just Asus is putting their warranty and their name on it. And that's what's causing that price to go higher. HP, Dell, and Lenovo, you know, they're big corporations. They have big expenses. They have shareholders they answer to. They've got to generate profits. They have to charge more to do that. And, you know, you do get a very good support structure that comes with that kind of purchase if that's important to you. So as Synology and QNAP and even Asus are struggling themselves to come out with a product consumers can use, even though Synology and the other NAS makers aren't necessarily controlling manufacturing their own drives or their own RAM. They're buying it from other companies, in the case of, say, Synology, and putting their own name on it. And, you know, Synology, when you look back at what happened, when the drives were cheap, Synology artificially increased the price by basically saying you have to buy our drives only, and restricted any other manufacturer's drives from working on their NASs by saying that it was for security and integrity reasons, despite the fact nobody I know, and I've been in this business a long time, has ever complained about a security or a integrity issue with a Synology. That's why you buy them, because they're known for just how good they are for security and integrity. So for them to turn around and undermine themselves saying they're not secure without selling their own drives was just a play to just artificially create a thing that didn't exist. It's not real. It never was real. To force your hand as a consumer, the one buying it, could be a business, to buy their drives. Now, their drives are certified, and that does cost more to certify the drives. Someone's got to get paid to certify those drives, and they're going to cost more, generally. Of course, Synology got beaten up pretty big on the internet for almost a year, over half a year anyway, reverted back to things the way they were, which was never needed to be fixed. Nothing was broken. It was just a marketing idea. Synology's privately owned. They don't have to respond to any investors. They can do whatever they want. They could close the doors and go out of business tomorrow. There'd be no lawsuits. There's nobody to answer to, right? If you started your own business and you were selling paper towels and you decided you've sold enough paper towels and you want to charge 3 times more money for them, and then you want to close your doors, there's no law broken here. You're allowed to do that. If you have investors, you may have some people pretty pissed off with their investment, wanting it returned to them, plus interest. But what they did, what Synology did, a lot of people found to be a betrayal of their trust. And people wanted to betray them back. It's human nature, like an eye for an eye type of thing. But you need to understand what Synology did to themselves was far greater damage than anything you or I could do by not buying a product from them. Then no sooner than they learned their lesson, than the whole AI apocalypse happened, where they need all the storage and all the RAM to build all these data centers, which made getting drives more difficult, which resulted in a scarcity of supply, which resulted in higher prices. That continues to this day. So Synology really screwed themselves because they dug their own hole. It took them quite a long time to admit it. And then by then, it was only a couple of months before the AI apocalypse happened with regards to data, storage, and RAM going through the roof. So now, Synology has found themselves in a hole they did not create, but I mean, just within a few months of them finally acknowledging their mistake, they held on too long. And in fact, they shouldn't even have exercised it to begin with. And of course, you can always look back and say, oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that. They know they shouldn't have done it, but they didn't know that then. Despite how many people told them, they weren't listening. Now karma comes around to Synology and they get what they deserve, in the sense that whether or not you purchased or won't purchase a Synology doesn't even begin to be a drop in the bucket compared to what's going on to Synology and every other NAS maker, by the way, when it comes to buying any sort of NVMe or hard drive storage. It's outrageously expensive. So it's not a good time to introduce a new NAS. You understand, right? It's just not good timing. So unless you have the ability of having some other kind of storage that you make, that's not a hard drive and it's not an NVMe drive, and you can make it cheaper and you're making it yourself in your own factory, you're in the same boat with QNAP and Asus Store and TerraMaster and everybody else. That's where we're at right now. It's not a good time to be investing research and development dollars into a new NAS when people can't afford to put the drives and the RAM in it. In the same way, it would be like if gas was $75 a gallon, not a good time to introduce a brand new gas guzzling car. Save it, put it on the shelf, wait till things get better. Sort of like the movie theaters when the pandemic happened. Not a good time to have a movie and crowd people into an enclosed space for 2 hours. Just put the movie on the shelf and wait until it passes. But while everybody's waiting, the Asian manufacturers are saying, we can meet you in the middle. This is our opportunity for you to consider us if you've never considered us before. Because if you're thinking about getting a new computer and you're thinking about getting a NAS, why don't you buy our mini PC / NAS and just use it as a mini PC? And then when you're ready, when drive prices come down, then you can populate the other drive bays and have yourself a NAS. Now, instead of them having to wait, now you get the wait. Or maybe you've got drives laying around, slap them in there. The reason I mention this, again, the reviews I'm seeing this, I completely miss the plot entirely. It doesn't seem to occur to the reviewers what's actually happening and why. And so what I'm seeing reviewers doing with this is they're reviewing it against Synology and QNAP. They're reviewing it against industrial enterprise needs. This is not an enterprise NAS. All right, so it's sort of like buying a Chevy Chevette, like some little tiny cheap, low horsepower, crappily made car, and comparing it against, I don't know, a Cadillac or something much fancier and twice the money. It's not a fair comparison. Why would you do that? That doesn't even make any sense. So I want to clarify for you guys what I believe is actually happening here. So when ACEMAGIC said, hey, we've got this NAS, are you interested? I would normally say no, because who's going to buy it? But then when I realized this is a mini PC with 4 drive bays, okay, that changes everything. So let's talk about it. First of all, well, I'll tell you what, let's get it out of the box. Let's take a look at it. All right, so let's see what we've got. Now, I have not done any other research other than watched a couple of YouTube reviewers from people that know NASs. They don't know mini PCs. And that shows in the review that they don't understand what they're looking at, right? It's frustrating for me because I respect these people that I'm watching, and it disappoints me to see how they completely misunderstood what they were looking at and then got angry about their own ignorance instead of educating themselves or looking for other opinions to help guide them to understanding. However, you know, they're welcome to their opinion and I'm welcome to mine, and you choose which makes most sense to you. So I'm going to try and look at it from both sides, not just one side. Now, first and foremost, looking in the box here, you can see we've got what appears to be, from the outside, a standard-looking NAS. Now, does anybody in the chat room want to guess how much a regular NAS costs? Like let's say a 4-bay Synology. Do you know the cheapest 4-bay Synology you can buy? Anybody? New, of course, not used. Let's get this out of here. And then does anybody want to guess how much this is? Let's start with price. Just as a Chevy Chevette is not priced the same as a Cadillac, assuming they still sold Chevy Chevette. Gee, I wonder why they stopped selling those. It's not fair to compare them. They're 2 entirely different things and 2 entirely different price points with 2 entirely different use case scenarios that were intended. We made some nice packaging here. Let's see. Okay. There is our mini PC. Now, is this being promoted as a mini PC, or is this being promoted as a NAS? Let's start there, right? Because if you're a product reviewer, all you have to do is read the box to tell you what I'm reviewing. I'm reviewing an N3A private data matrix. This doesn't say NAS anywhere on this box. In fact, if I come around, let me bring this up to the camera and show you the sticker on the side that gives us the specs of what's in here. What does that say? Can you guys read it? Anybody in the chat room tell me what that says? Does that say it's a network attached storage device? Anywhere? Do you see the word NAS on this? All right, so yes, it looks like a NAS. It kind of works like a NAS, but this is a type of a NAS that is not traditional. What's interesting, one of the things I'm first noticing here, all the ports, instead of being on the back of the NAS, they're on the side. Let me bring this up and I'll show you close up. So here is the front of the unit, and then behind this magnetic, this is supposed to be magnetic, there it goes. There's your 4 drive bays. And you're probably accustomed to seeing all of your ports on the back. There's nothing on the back, just a big fan. But over here, these are your ports. These are the kind of ports you typically find on a mini PC. You don't see these kind of ports on a traditional NAS, do you? I don't. The number of USB ports, that layout. In fact, I'm sure I could pull a mini PC out right now that matches this almost precisely. But I can't pull out a NAS anywhere close to the number of ports this has. Never, ever. Unless that's also a mini PC. So for example, Orico makes a mini PC and Minisform makes a mini PC that has multiple drive bays. And they will often refer to them as NASs, but they aren't what you are used to what you're accustomed to seeing defined as a NAS. They're recreating it, reimagining, rethinking it based on what's going on in the marketplace today with AI. So Minisform is a very, very powerful mini PC, one of the most powerful mini PCs you can buy. Whereas NASs are usually pretty low powered. About the highest end NAS you can buy in the traditional sense of a NAS would be QNAP's. They have an i5. That's as high up as they go. That's the what's it called? It's a 5-bay NVMe NAS, real small little box with an i5 processor. As far as I know, when it comes to traditional NASs from a ASUS store, Synology, QNAP, or TerraMaster, there's no processor higher than that. Once you go higher than that, what you're getting into is mini PC territory. So what Minisform has done and what Orico has been doing is creating mini PCs that have multiple drive bays that can be also used as NASs, but used differently. Okay, so that also follows with this, which, by the way, I think I've seen this before. This looks like, what's it called, an AOO Star WTR Pro from about 2 years ago. This looks like all they did was change the name on the side and the processor inside to a higher end processor, but I don't know what's involved in that. It doesn't look like ACEMAGIC necessarily developed this from the ground up, but that they bought something cookie cutter and put their name on it. It is a first generation product for ACEMAGIC, and any first generation product is going to need some time. All right, we already know that. We're reviewing it because it's new. It just got released, and it's a hell of a price. Let's get back to the price. If we look over at ACEMAGIC's website, which we have the link for in today's video, let me share this with you. You see the price on this? I'm going to give you a minute to just take that in for a minute. $289. Now at $289, you're not going to get any RAM or storage. However, if you want it with RAM or storage, over at Amazon for $399, it will come with 8 gigs of RAM of DDR4 and a 128 gig solid state NVMe drive inside, which is what they sent us. They sent us this right here. Now, can you show me a 4-bay Synology, QNAP, TerraMaster, or ASUS store 4-bay NAS anywhere close to this price, bare bones or otherwise? As far as I know, you're pretty far from that. This also has the new AMD Embedded, what's the R2544, which would be considered a budget end mini PC. We've reviewed a few mini PCs with this processor. When you look at the specifications, it's a 2-year warranty. They give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. And it's really intended for home users, not for business users. It has a 1 gig and a 2.5 gig Ethernet, which for home users, most home users don't have 2.5 gig Ethernet, so I don't really think that matters. Of course, the maximum storage capacity is based on what the largest size drive is that's available from the drive manufacturers at the time that they made this graphic, times 4. So that'll change in the future. It's not a hard-coded limit in the system. That's true of all NASs, all modern NASs. Of course, it's using AMD Radeon graphics, which is part of that CPU, which is 4 cores and 8 threads. It can run Windows 11 Pro and Linux. It supports cloud storage, and of course, it also can do your backups for you. And here they're saying if you were to buy cloud storage like Google Drive or Microsoft's OneDrive or whatever, you got to pay on a subscription. This, you're just going to pay for it once. So, and if you just use a backup of a single drive, then, surely you understand that when that drive fails, you lose that backup. So hopefully you have more than one. Here's a breakdown of how the drives go in, where the SSDs and RAM are located on a plate underneath. And it has a trans flash, or what's also referred to as a micro SD card slot. The RAM does support dual channel, and of course it's got some pretty damn good cooling in there from the looks of it. It has an HDMI output, DisplayPort output, as well as a USB 3.2 Gen 2, meaning you can power 3 monitors at the same time. Show me a Synology, a QNAP, a ASUS Store, or TerraMaster that can do that. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, no such thing exists. On the other hand, show me a mini PC that doesn't support that, very few and far between. Almost all of them support 3 monitors these days. So what we're looking at ultimately, and they do call it a NAS here, and they're not wrong, it's just a redefined non-traditional NAS. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that everybody's been sort of copying everybody else, and they're thinking outside of the box. They're saying, okay, everybody else wants to define it this way, and it's going to have a very high low price as a result of that thinking. If we rethink this, we can still call it a network attached storage device, but we can make it much cheaper and much more flexible. That doesn't mean that you should be running this in a corporation or even in a business. This is really for home users. If you need more power and you need more performance, you're going to need to spend more money, and then you should probably be looking at enterprise level or higher end devices that can support much more demanding usage in an office environment where multiple users are all trying to access it simultaneously, and your whole business is running on it instead of a server. I wouldn't use this for that. You can, but I wouldn't. But if you're a home user and you're putting in this high-level grade of NAS in your home, it's overkill and it's expensive, and I wouldn't do that either. A little bit about your specifications here, your RAM, video output, all the ports on here. And that's first of all where I want to get started with this review, is I want to correct the interpretation from the other reviewers. Their interpretation of comparing this to a traditional NAS is the biggest fault that I can see. This is not like a traditional NAS. This is closer to Minisforum's N5. This is closer to Orico's mini PCs that have 4 bays that you can put Linux on. What ACEMAGIC's trying to do here, and again, this is my interpretation, is they're trying to bring in something more affordable to the home user that a home user would use for things like Plex, or for things like backups, for things like I want to be able to access my music and my movies while I'm on my phone somewhere outside of the home. I want to be able to maybe even have some security cameras around my house and store the files here. Basic home user stuff, right? There's usually not more than 4 or 5 people in a house. This is going to take care of them. It's not a powerhouse. It's not there to deliver ultra fast data transfers, because most people don't have that need in their house. And if you're that level of enthusiast, why would you be looking at anything like this to begin with? It doesn't make any sense. It's not for you. It's for other people. So to dismiss it and not acknowledge other people with other needs exists is offensive to me. Now, what's interesting to me, and here's one thing that's gonna, again, it's a very basic piece of research that anybody who's reviewing should have already done. And that is to determine if this is meant to be a mini PC or a NAS. What operating system does it come with? It doesn't come with any. Okay, that's step number one. If the NAS you're buying doesn't come with an operating system, that tells you that this is not an enterprise solution, period. It's just not. That's not what it's intended for. How you use it is one thing. What it's intended for is another. That's more of a hobbyist enthusiast thing. Generally speaking, there's always exceptions. Okay, so if I wanted to put TrueNAS or Zima OS on this or whatever, I'm sure it would load up fine. But what if I wanted to put Windows on it? What if I wanted to put Windows on my Synology? What if I wanted to put Windows on my ASUS store? What if I wanted to put Windows on my TerraMaster? Or what if I wanted to put Windows on my QNAP? It's not going to happen, primarily because you're not going to find the drivers. So my first question is, if we go to the support side of ACEMAGIC's page for this unit, does it have drivers? And if so, what are they for? Let's go take a look together. We're going to go over to, let's see, where would this be? Scroll all the way up to the top. Support. And then we're going to go to, whoops, drivers and downloads. Now let's see if there are any drivers or downloads for the N3A. N3A NAS drivers. Download. Download. N3A, 544 megs. Okay, so we're going to download these drivers. And does anybody want to guess what those drivers are for? Anyone? Bueller? Is it the 40th anniversary? 42nd? I don't know. Big anniversary for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller? They're Windows drivers. Why do they only, that's the only download that's available for this. When you look under the downloads, that's all you see. So, let's get it plugged in and turned on and install Windows on it. Let's start there. Now you could always dual boot it. You could always install Linux on it. You could always install TrueNAS, Zima OS, etc., 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 just like you can with all the other hobbyist builds. But if you're not a hobbyist and you are not a business, I guess the industry is telling you, we don't want your business. And ACEMAGIC says, hold on a minute. There are very few businesses and very few enthusiasts that we could possibly sell to if we're making a traditional NAS. So how can we modify a traditional NAS to make it much more user-friendly to your average home user? That's who this is marketed to. The home user that's not the technical mind of the enthusiast or the hobbyist, and not the enterprise customer that has a big demand for speed, performance, and all of the apps and things with their things like Synology's DSM and things like that, that they need to secure their data and their enterprise operation that they're going to spend a lot more money on. Okay, so the home user has basically been ignored by the NAS market. Now, Minis Forum and Orico have said, wait a minute, we'll come out with these NASs that are mini PCs that have high-end processors so you can run AI processing on them. I don't know anybody running AI processing on a computer. These are developers, these are coders, these are enterprise enthusiast users that are into writing their own software. I don't know a single person like that in my entire existence. I've never met that person. But somehow they keep targeting them for this specific type of product, which is great for them, but not so good for the rest of us. Like, I don't know any businesses that want an AI-based NAS. Me personally, I just never experienced it, never have. That may change, but in 35 years in this business, it's never been a request. It's never even been a wish list item. And as for the software, I have never in my life interacted with a software developer directly. Except, I will say, Nick Shaw over at D7X Tech. He's a software developer, and we work with him to create the optimizer tool. I just realized that as I was talking. But Nick and I don't know what kind of computer Nick uses and never brought it up. So I don't know anybody that does that kind of work that would tell me, oh yeah, I'm interested in OpenClaw and writing AI. And you know, that's a certain kind of person that doesn't represent the majority of people that exist on this planet. And we need those people. They're the ones writing the code the rest of us use. And the people that like to play around with code, I think it's awesome. It's a great way to keep your mind sharp. It's a great hobby if you can afford it. But then there's the rest of us, the bulk of the consumers that say, man, if I could have a big storage device to put all my backups in one place, and I could stream all my movies and my music to my phone, no matter where I am in the world or to any television in the house, I really would, but they're too expensive. And ACEMAGIC sees this huge gap, and they're like, we've got the solution for you. And I do believe this is their motivation. I don't believe most reviewers are understanding this, and I don't think ACEMAGIC is communicating it very well. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but this makes perfect sense. Absolute perfect sense. Look at the price. And look at how expandable it is. So without any drives, all the drive bays should be empty. Oh, I don't like the metal. These should be made of plastic because metal can short out against the bottom of a drive. Not a fan of that. But these are all empty, so all we have is some internal storage and internal RAM. You'll say, yeah, but it's only 8 gigs of RAM. Windows 11 doesn't run well on 8 gigs of RAM. You know who says that? Somebody who's never run Windows 11 on 8 gigs of RAM. That is a level of ignorance that you can spot right away. Anybody who says Windows 11 does not run well on 8 gigs of RAM has never done it. They're just leeching off the internet and choosing to believe it. Because if you actually try to run Windows 11 on 8 gigs of RAM, you'd be hard-pressed to see a difference unless you're a gamer. Let me tell you, you can do photo editing and video editing on 8 gigs of RAM just fine. And in fact, using your browsing, paying your bills, opening emails, photo editing, all that, you can't tell any difference. I mean, unless you're really an intense user, in which case, I'm sure you have the budget to buy more. But for the rest of us, these days, 8 gigs of RAM in Windows 11 versus 16 gigs or 32 gigs, most end users cannot see a difference anymore. That's just old, outdated information that people continue to propagate through their ignorance. Please don't believe it unless you try it yourself. If you want to speak from your own experience, especially since these latest Windows updates have done so much to improve performance, the amount of RAM you need now isn't what it used to be. It's going down. It has to because of the Microsoft is responding just like everybody else with the lack of the availability of RAM and the prices of things. And Microsoft has promised to keep making Windows more efficient with the amount of RAM you have. So even though Windows 11 always ran with 8 gigs of RAM, always, it runs even better now with 8 gigs of RAM, where you can't even tell a difference unless you're a very intense user. And again, if you're somebody who enjoys fast cars and you buy a Chevy Chevette, you're not going to like it. You spent way too little money, and you're delusional to have thought for even a second of thought that you were going to be happy with that car. But for the rest of us who don't have that kind of money, we would be grateful to have a new car at that price. When that car was available, it was very cheap. Beggars can't be choosers. It's still going to get you to wherever you're going. You're still going to stop at the red lights. You still have a speed limit. So the idea that that's not good enough for you is great if you can afford to have the attitude. That being said, be very cautious of anybody that says Windows 11 does not run well on 8 gigs of RAM. They're full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about, and you should try it yourself. Because no matter what anybody says, your experience will prove out the reality. People are gaslighting like crazy these days. They say what they feel. They don't say what the facts are. Overall and in general, and especially on social media, there's this emotional connection to deception. They like to be tricked. They like hype. When a new product comes out and everybody's like, isn't this great? Everybody's great. And I come out and I go, it's not really that great. People go, shut up, Carey. Why you got to take all the fun out of it? Well, ripping people off isn't fun to me. I don't get the mass population online that feels as though they're being attacked because somebody's calling out the nonsense. They're saying to me, shut up. We want to believe. We want to believe in the nonsense. Why do you ruin it? And I'm like, why do you want to be manipulated and deceived? And so we butt heads. We're at a stalemate because I'm offended when PR companies exaggerate the technology that they're promoting as if it's the next best thing. Oh, NVIDIA's got a new chip coming out. Yeah, whatever. We've heard all this before. Are you new here? Have you not seen this happen over and over and you fall for it every time? And what has occurred to me is they want to fall for it. This is fun. And I am ruining their fun. Sorry. This is reality. And if you want to ignore reality and live in a delusionary world, go be my guest. But I'm not going to accommodate these people who want to live in a bubble. I have no interest in their bubble. I think it's foolish and irresponsible. Unless you're under 15 years old, I feel sorry that you haven't matured to an adult. That's how I feel. You want to talk about feelings? Let's talk about feelings. I feel sad for people who like to be manipulated like a dog doing a fake throw to the ball, and they keep falling for it every time, and they love it. And you say, hey, you know, he's not really going to throw the ball. Shut up. Why are you taking the fun out of it? Sorry, my bad. I thought you were an adult and a mature adult, and obviously you still want to behave like a child. So as far as I'm concerned, that's how I feel. Does that offend you? Now you know how I feel about your behavior. Now we're equal. So you go your way, I'm going to go my way. This channel is here to talk about both the good and the bad, and the reality versus what social media is mostly based on emotions. Mostly what I'm seeing is all emotional. So when I film this live and I demonstrate live and unscripted how something works, you don't have to take my word for it. You can see it happen live on the screen. You can buy the product, or if you already have it, emulate everything I'm doing, and you'll get the exact same results every single time. That's verification of reality versus hyperbole, product hype, and, you know, fun. Let's all have some fun by lying to each other. Isn't it fun? I don't think it's fun. You go have your fun without me. So that's why it's so important to me to make sure we clarify everything as much as possible. It's not important to me how you interpret that as good or bad. That's your responsibility. I'm not here to manipulate your thought one way or another. I just want to make sure that you're dealing with facts and not hype. All right, let me move the box out of the way here, and let's see what's in our accessories box. I got no screws. A product manual? Really? Let's just set that right over there. We got a power brick, right? Just like a mini PC would have. Power cable, cloverleaf style, just like a mini PC would have. And an HDMI cable, just like a mini PC would have. I don't recall many NASs including HDMI cables. Is there a network cable? NASs usually include network cables. Screws to mount the 2.5-inch drives? Nope. Does this not take 2.5-inch drives? It should. Yeah, there's 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess you just attach them with good wishes. Not sure ACEMAGIC really thought this through. Okay. Clearly, what ACEMAGIC is packaged is mini PC material and not NAS material. And the sticker on the box says mini PC. So this is a mini PC with 4 drive bays. Actually, 6 drive bays if you include the 2 NVMe slots. So be that as it may, we have to understand what we're buying, and ACEMAGIC's message is a little bit confusing here. Let's just leave that out because I don't want to keep putting it in and out. And then let's plug this in, and for me to plug this in, I've got to turn it sideways. And you'll see they've got those stickers here. This is all metal, by the way. This isn't some cheap plastic NAS. You'd think it would be at that price. We've got these stickers that say not to plug it into the network until you've signed into Windows. This is a Windows thing. It's not a Linux thing. It's not a true NAS thing. So again, it's a mini PC with multiple bays. Every indication points to, from the accessories to the way it's described on the box, and it is a NAS. It is a form of network attached storage, but so is a USB drive. Okay, you can take a USB drive, plug it into your router, and share it on your whole network. That is a network attached storage device. That is literally what that is. So they're not lying, but they could have been clearer. All right, let's plug it in. This is going to go right here. So we're going to treat this like a mini PC. So if this comes with RAM and storage, there's no operating system on it. We'll be responsible for putting that on. And I think we need to start with Windows 11 just out of the gate. We don't need to put any drives in here yet. So let's do HDMI cable. And that's going to go right here. And here's something else you don't normally see on a NAS. The need for a keyboard and a mouse. I mean, other than setting up your operating system, in the case of a hobbyist NAS, after that, you shouldn't really need the keyboard or mouse anymore. Or a monitor. They usually just kind of sit quietly in the corner by themselves, plugged in, and no monitor, no keyboard, no mouse, no speakers. This isn't that. You could turn it into that, but you'd have to start with all this first. All right, so with that plugged in, let me turn this around here, and let's plug it into power and fire it up and see what it looks like. Oh, here we go. Plug that in. All right. In theory, let me turn the keyboard and mouse on. Yeah, let's turn down. Oh, I guess I did that while I was talking. Now there should be a power button up here somewhere. I like that they cover up the power button optionally so no one accidentally shuts the NAS off if it's running as a storage server on a network. Let's go ahead and hit that power button. You see the blue light comes on. And let's jump over to the HDMI capture over here, see what it looks like. We'll give that just a minute to load up. Dangcores in the chat says, I wonder if it can be used as a TV media player. Yes, that's exactly what its primary purpose is for, being able to have your storage locally in a home environment. So yes, absolutely. All right, let's see what it's doing. It says just a moment. So it's doing something, and I have no idea what this is doing. It does look like Windows 11 is on here already. And it does come pre-installed with Windows 11. I was thinking we were going to have to install Windows 11. Now, can you name another mini PC, can you name another NAS that comes with Windows 11? Anyone in the chat room? Anywhere on the market? Can you name a NAS that you can buy right now that ships with Windows 11 pre-installed? My guess is probably not. As far as I know, this is the only one on the planet, at least mass manufactured, that you can buy. Not what you created at home, or not what somebody is putting on Etsy, but an actual corporate-made NAS that has Windows 11 pre-installed. I don't think you can name one. I don't think it exists. That's why this is a mini PC. So do mini PCs normally take SAS drives? Do mini PCs normally use ECC memory? Of course they don't. That's more enterprise level. Why are you looking at this if that's what you want? Do you not understand? Have I not made this clear? You're not going to put ECC memory in this. It's not going to work. You're not going to put enterprise grade server drives in this. They won't work. They won't plug in. It's a different interface. This isn't for that. Why is this so hard for some of you to understand? I'm looking at the questions in the chat room. Of course it doesn't. This is a mini PC with 4 SATA drive base. That's all it is. And it has 2 additional NVMe drives underneath. Okay? So it is an expanded mini PC for home users that is very, very aggressively priced for home user use. That's it. Is anybody confused about, still confused about what this is? Am I not making it clear? All right, let's set this up. We'll go English. Remember, I did not plug it into the network because it has Windows 11 pre-installed, which explains the stickers covering up the Ethernet ports. US. I'll bet you could add Wi-Fi to this thing if it doesn't already have it. It's just a mini PC. Skip. I'll keep repeating it until it sinks in. Let's connect to a network. Not now. Accept the license agreement. Hey, there's Paul Vircher joining us and saying hello. There's Mark Ofsky saying hello. All right, username. Just to upset NAS purists, I'm going to call it NAS, just to poke the bear. This is a NAS. It is a network-attached storage device, as is any other storage device attached to your network. It's just not what you've been brainwashed into by the PR companies. There's no rule that says a NAS has to follow certain requirements other than what you made up in your own head or you believed from a content creator that made it up in their own head. There's no written rule that defines it anywhere on the internet to match that description, because that's not what it is. It is literally a storage device on your network. Any storage device on your network is a NAS. Corey Man said my phone can be a NAS. Yes, it absolutely can be. Yes. May not be very powerful. You may not be able to do a whole lot with it, but you would meet the definition of network attached storage if you configured it that way. Absolutely. Because your phone is just a computer. It's not really a phone. See, part of marketing is deceiving you into saying the computer on your left is a computer. The computer on your right is a phone. When the computer on the right it's not a phone. It's just another computer with a phone application. And the computer in the middle is a NAS, which is still a computer with a different application on it. So they're all the same thing. You know, when you buy a box of Fruit Loop cereal and you see all the different colors of cereal, they all taste exactly the same. The red, the orange, the yellow, the blue, they're all the same flavor. It's all psychological in your head. And it's amazing how effective people are easily manipulated into believing nonsense. So, you know, if that's your fun to believe nonsense, go have your fun, and I'm sorry to spoil your fun. But for the rest of us that want to know what's really happening, I want to lift back the curtain and show you, you know, what's really happening in Oz. It isn't what it appears to be. In fact, what it appears to be is very obvious. You know, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, there's a really good chance it's just a duck. No reason to overthink this. All right, let me go full screen over here and let's go see what version of Windows we've got pre-installed. You right click. And we'll go to System. And it says we've got 120 gig of NVMe storage here, 8 gigs of RAM. We've got the AMD Ryzen R2544. That is a mobile chip that's soldered onto the board. We're on Windows 11 Pro 24H2. Easy peasy. And there you go. There's your mini PC. You're ready to rock and roll. You don't need to put any drives in this. The way that it ships, it's ready to use. But if you want to use it as a storage device, let me come back over to camera 1 for a second, because I've got 4 drives here. Now, I imagine these drives can be screwed in, but don't have to be. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have included screws for just traditional 3.5-inch desktop style drives. Now, I would still use NAS rated drives if I was going to leave this on 24/7, but you don't have to. They're not playing the little Synology game that Synology learned to regret later. But these happen to be NAS drives, and I heard it click. That locked that drive in. How do you get it out? You just bend the plastic away. It doesn't bend very much. Yeah, I guess you just bend it away. Is there a release? That's a little confusing. I see that it locks in, but I don't see how. I wonder if it's in the documentation I didn't read. Oh, yeah, it just pops out of there, so no big deal. So when I pop that in, now this should be hot swappable. You should not have to turn the machine off. Let's find out. And you'll see the light on the drive tray. We have a light that says the drive is active. It would be a red light if the drive has failed or there's a problem with it. So if you do have a drive failure, you knew which bay it is just by looking at the lights. And I believe there's a light underneath of that that will show read and write activity, which I think we have to format, partition the drive, partition and format the drive, initialize the drive for that to function, I think. So let's go back into Windows just to see if it identifies the drive, or if we have to do this with the power off. It should be hot swappable. Andy says that's a poor drawer design. I don't have a problem with it, Andy. I think it's fine. It's very easy. Some of the problems I have with the drawers on other units, like a Ricoh, they're very stiff. They're hard to get in and out because of the plastic, just kind of it's a solid piece of plastic clipping in harshly. This has a proper release lever that automatically releases the drive without the struggle to pull on it and get it to pop out, or the struggle to push the locking mechanism back in with a lot of force to get it to lock in. I don't like that design. On the other hand, I don't like the metal inside of the drive tray. I didn't like it when TerraMaster did it, and I don't like it that ACEMAGIC has done that, because it does. If the drive bay were to bend or warp in any way, it could short circuit the circuit board underneath the drive. So that should be a non-conductive material. I do like the lights being on the tray. That I really, really like. I also like that the drive bays are not numbered. So you don't have a big number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, because that's just stupid. A RAID array doesn't care what order the drives are in. It only cares that they're all there. So when a company like Ugreen misleads the public by numbering big numbers on the trays themselves, it shows how dumb the regular public is. They don't understand. Or they care more about how it looks. You can take a Ugreen NAS and take drive number 3 and put it in drive number 1 slot. Those numbers don't have to be in order. That's just unnecessary nonsense. And what's frustrating for me as a technician is somebody breaks drive tray number 2 on a Ugreen. I can't just put another drive bay in there, because the customer would say it doesn't match, doesn't look right. This isn't meant to be looked at. This is meant to go somewhere in a room or a closet. Unless, of course, you're using it as a mini PC. But even then, there's a cover, so you don't have to look at it. Okay, here, does this help? The fact of the matter is, if I bought 4 Ugreen NASs, and I took all, just think of it like a deck of cards, and I took all 4 drive number 1 trays and all 4 drive number 2 from each, the drive 1 tray from one NAS, the drive 1 tray from the other 3, and I put all drive 1 into a Ugreen, it doesn't know the difference. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So when a customer says, oh, I've got this Ugreen NAS and I broke tray number 2, I need a new tray number 2, then I have to reach out to find a tray that has the number 2 on it. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life? It is to me. That is just stupid. It's stupid that Ugreen has to go through the added expense of inventory control, that they don't just have a box of drive trays to reach in and sell you. They've got a box of number 1s and a box of number 2s and a box of, and it's for no reason. It's just an emotional thing for people who don't understand how computers work. That's who that's for. If you understand how computers work, you realize whoever did this doesn't understand how computers work, or they know exactly what they're doing in order to charge more money to customers for things that actually make no difference in reality. Just because they took some paint or a label or a decal. Now it's different. Does that mean if I change my shirt, I can change my name and be somebody else when it's still me behind the shirt? Which is what do you believe, the shirt? You can't be that simple. Nobody can be that simple. Look, I'm Superman. Look, I'm Clark Kent. Really? Really? All right. Am I venting enough? I just can't believe people are so easily... I just think people like it. I think people really like to be tricked and fooled. They like it. So those people don't like me. I'm ruining their fun. This is their entertainment. And they pay money for it. I don't have that much money, so I can't afford to be entertained like that. That's why I'm so upset by it. Maybe if I was wealthy and I could just have all this expendable cash to waste on nonsense, I would say, oh, isn't that fun? But when it means I can't pay the rent or buy any groceries, it's not so fun anymore. All right. Buster says our lights have arrived. Mara. Buster says our lights have arrived. The end of Buster's gifts is still not even close to finished. Buster ordered us some lights. I want to put some lights underneath this wall to get rid of the shadows. And when I mentioned it, Buster said, I barely got the words out of my mouth.
Oh my God.
Uh-oh, is it a big box?
Yeah.
When I mentioned it, it didn't occur to me that anybody was going to order. I said I was going to order some lights. And no sooner I said it, but Buster said, I've already ordered some lights for you. They're on their way to you. It's like, wow, thank you so much. So I know what I'll be doing this weekend. Thank you, Buster. Mara is bringing the boxes. Is there 4 of those, or how many boxes are there?
There's 3.
Ooh. Oh. There's 2 in each of the... Okay. Thank you, Buster. Again, thank you. Okay. So, then the question Brian Weber wants to know is, are the bays themselves numbered? I didn't look. Let's see. No, I see no numbers on this at all. Normally, the drive bays are numbered in order to identify which drive needs attention. So on a NAS, over time, say a drive fails, and you would then go look at the NAS, and there will be a light by the number. Usually, the number of the bay is next to wherever the LED is for the status. But because the LEDs are built into the trays, that would be redundant and unnecessary, and wouldn't make any sense to put the drive numbers, the slot numbers on this, because it's irrelevant. The LEDs follow the tray, regardless of what slot the tray is in. And if you're wondering if I want to change drive number 3, it's always going to be in your 3rd slot. So you can just count 1, 2, 3 from the top down. But if there's a problem, you'll just look for where the red light is. The light will turn red if there's a problem. You won't have to worry about what the number is to locate it. There are some like QNAP and TerraMaster where the drive, the NVMe drives aren't numbered, or the number is underneath the drive and you have to pull each drive out and look at the number underneath of it to figure out which one's the bad one, since there's no LED inside to tell you. That's why it's necessary. Here it would not be necessary. You need to forget what you know because it doesn't apply here. It never had to. It was just because of the way those manufacturers decided to design their device that made that necessary. And if you have a smarter design, you don't need to then put band-aids on it to correct your bad design. In my opinion, if you have to put drive numbers next to the at all on these bays, you've got a bad design. That's my opinion. It should be intuitive and inherent in the device itself. You should not have to then label it. If you've got LEDs, that's what the LEDs are for. W. Holmes said, yeah, there's a release on the drive trays. It's a lever near the front that folds out to the side. Let's take a look at that. So look how easy these slide out. I have had such a difficult time with some of the NASs, like a Ricoh, where you see how easy that was? Where I've struggled and it feels like it's stuck. And when it opens, it sounds like it cracks. Even the Minisforum NASs do that. And I hate that. The drive tray should be smooth. You shouldn't have to struggle installing and removing them. And ACEMAGIC or WOO Star, whoever made this, did a good design. Now, as for a release, I think you're talking maybe this thing here's. I mean, that's the only thing I can see for a release. Let's pop this in. Okay, that's locked. It's not going anywhere, right? And then, can we release it like this? I mean, it's not really moving. Oh, it goes this way. Look at that. Is that what this is for? That's not doing anything. You pull on it? You pull it? I don't know. I'm not sure how that works. Still feels pretty locked in there to me. It's clearly locking something. I don't know what it's locking. I'm very confused by that. If I give you a close-up on that. Over here, maybe you can see. Definitely unlocks something. But the drive is not coming out. Yeah, there may be some. I mean, this all appears to be just a swivel. So I don't know what that's locking or unlocking. I mean, I definitely see that it's affecting something. No idea. I have no idea. Let me just set that here for now. I was going to go and see if this was recognized in Windows, and I forgot. So let me do that now. Let's get back over to camera 1, and let's jump back over to this desktop. If I right-click and go to the device manager, I'm just curious. Does this have Wi-Fi? I don't think it does, but I can't see why it couldn't. It's just a mini PC. Network adapters. There's our 1 gig and 2.5 gig adapter. Wait a minute. That looks like two 2.5 gig network adapters to me. Is this an error in their documentation? Let me plug it into the network and see what it negotiates at. Because that sure looks like two 2.5 gig adapters. So let's try adapter number 1. And then down on the bottom right corner, we'll see that start to initialize. Once that goes solid, we'll take a look at our link speed. So right click, network and internet settings, network adapter, Ethernet. We are connected at 2500. That is our speed. Okay, let's unplug it. And now, if we do the same thing, if we right-click down here, go to network and internet settings, Ethernet, now it should show we have no connection, right? And then Ethernet 2. So I'm going to plug into number 2. We're going to give that a second. It's initializing. Little icons flashing in the bottom right corner. Went solid. Now it says it's connected. Drop down the arrow, scroll down, and see what our connection speed is. Looks like I'm going to have to refresh this. So, or maybe, let's see, click on network 2. No, I'm not sure how to do that manually, so let's just do it again. Right click, network and internet settings, back over to Ethernet. Yeah, see, now it's fully propagated. They are both 2.5 gig. It is not one 2.5 gig and one 1 gig. This is what happens if a content reviewer just takes the PR material and doesn't actually double check it. We've been burned by that before, and that's why I now check everything to verify. So those are two 2.5 gig network adapters, which I assume could be within Windows. You can bind them together for one 5 gig connection if you wanted to, but that really wouldn't make sense when you just have 4 mechanical hard drives. Likely, if you had that kind of a network, you probably would have a much higher end NAS, right? If you can afford one thing, it doesn't make sense that you would then buy something cheap just to hold up. If your network speed is important to you, that you spent that kind of money on your network, why would you intentionally go buy a brand new network attached storage device that can't meet the speeds that you put into your network? This isn't designed for those people. Okay, so, let's go to disk management. Right click, disk management. Let's see if it sees the drive. That's my first question. Is it there? So it does not see the drive at all. We only see disk 0. We don't see disk 1, or we wouldn't see 2, 3, or 4 because they're empty, but we should see disk 1 available, and we don't. So I wonder if maybe the BIOS isn't set up to recognize the drives. Let me restart this just to see if a restart affects whether or not this sees the drives. And as I'm clicking on things and you see how fast things are appearing on the desktop, I want to remind you, you're looking at Windows 11 Pro with 8 gigs of RAM, because if I didn't tell you that, it would be easy to assume it's 16 gigs minimum based on how responsive it is. Just to put proof to the screen in real, live, unedited, unrehearsed content, I can confidently tell you it would be very, 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 very difficult to impossible under normal use case scenarios to identify how much RAM this has installed. You'd have to be very, very demanding on this thing. In which case, why did you buy something at this limited power if you're a power user? That's on you for making a bad purchasing decision. But for everybody else, I think they'd be completely happy with the performance of this. I mean, we're already back up to the desktop. Let me go back to disk management and see if it sees the drive. Oh, what do we have here? There's an 8 gig drive with a partition on it. Did I not? Maybe it's my bad that I didn't clear these. Shame on me. These are 8 gig drives? Hold on. Or sorry, 8 terabytes? Yeah, these are 8 terabytes. So normally I clean these drives before I use them on a review. And I guess I put this on a to-do list and guilty. I did not see it through. So we can do that right now. Better late than never. We'll just drop to a command prompt as administrator. We're going to reset these drives. So disk part. And we're going to list all the disks. We should see the NVMe drive, right? The 120 gig drive. And then we should also see the mechanical 8 terabyte, which is the 7,000 gigs. So we're going to select. So just trying to take a shortcut. Select disk 1 and then clean it. That's what I thought I had done earlier. So that means I have to do that to all the other drives. All right, that's on me. All right, let's right click and go to disk management now and see if I get the pop-up dialog immediately that says, hey, you have a new drive. Yep, there it is. That's what I was looking for. Just click OK. Right click on the drive, new simple volume, next, 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 next. Now you have a mini PC with an 8 terabyte D drive. All right, and we can continue to add drives and have an E drive, an F drive, and a G drive. You can't normally do that on a mini PC. Okay, but what about a RAID array? Well, let's try that out now. Let's go back over to camera 1. Bear with me for 1 second as I get back over to camera 1. And let's take drive 2. And for a RAID 5, we need a minimum of 3 drives. So let's just, for the sake of moving this along, let's put in 3 drives. I'm still confused over what this lever does. It doesn't seem to be releasing anything, so I don't know if, other than releasing this lever, if there's something else I have to press. But I'm assuming that would make sense. I just don't know how to use it. Okay, now I want to reset these drives. So the first thing I want to do is reboot the machine so it sees them. Once I reboot the machine and it sees them, I want to clean all 3 drives again. Like I just did to this one, I'm going to clean it again. And I'll repeat it for drive 2 and drive 3. Then we're going to reboot, go into the BIOS, and configure these as a RAID. All right, let's do that now without reading any instructions, just going off basic knowledge. As a technician, as somebody as a computer enthusiast even, should know how to do this in a mini PC. On a NAS, on a proper NAS, it's defaulted to RAID. That's it, you can't change it. But on a mini PC, you can. So you can have individual drives if you want. You could also do individual drives on a NAS, but there'll still be some form of RAID. With this, it does not have to be a form of RAID, but it should be an option in the BIOS, and that's what I want to check. So otherwise, you'll be stuck with Windows. Let's, Ding Korea says, I wonder if it has BTS format. The BTS format, the B-tree file system, is a Linux thing that won't be in Windows. You'd have to put, if you want the B-tree file system, you'd have to use a different operating system. Be that TrueNAS, Unraid, Zima OS. That's not something Windows does. It never has. So no, by default, B-tree is out of this. It's not compatible with Windows. All right, let me go back over here. And then let's restart. And again, I want you to watch your restart time. I want to reemphasize 8 gigs of RAM. It's fine. Most people will not be able to tell the difference. If you can tell the difference, you should spend more money. If you can't tell the difference, you should not spend more money. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, let's take a look here. W. Holmes said the WTR Pro, which is very similar to this, it came with an M.2 key Wi-Fi slot with an adapter for 2230 or 2242 M.2 SSDs, which is what he is using. This may be the exact same thing. I'd have to open it up and look. But first things first. W. Holmes says the drives are not hot swappable. A lot of times in mini PCs, there's an option for that. And we'll have to go into the BIOS and see. But if you've read some documentation that I haven't read, then you're already ahead of me on that. But I still, again, until I see it with my own eyes, I appreciate the information and I just want to verify. That's all. I'm not saying you're wrong. And I'm also not going to just take your word for it. Not because of you. It doesn't matter who it is. Even if ACEMAGIC said, I'd still want to verify. Because they also said it came with a 1 gig and a 2.5 gig network port. And clearly, it's 2.5 gig network ports. So that's why I always verify. Some people get offended by it, but it's not meant. I do treat everybody the same. All right, let me go back full screen over here for me. And let's go back to right-click and disk management. Yeah, I'm not seeing disk 2 or disk 3 here, interestingly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, check to see that these trays are all the way in. Yeah, they're in. Yeah, they're lit up. I've got green lights on them. So I'm going to just go to the command prompt and just follow through with what I said before, which is I want to reset the drives. which I'm using the wrong. I always grab the wrong keyboard. All right, let me move the other keyboard here. Oh boy, it's always fun to have two keyboards and two mice and one screen. What could go wrong? All right, we're going to come down here. We're going to type in CMD, and we're going to run that as administrator and click yes on the user account control. And we'll type in disk part is one word. This goes all the way back to the old DOS days, disk part. And then list disk. Does it see them? Yes, it sees two of them, but it doesn't see the third one. I wonder why. I have three lights. Well, let's select disk 1 and clean it. Let's select disk 2 and clean it. All right, now they're reset. This completely resets the drives. Now, we can't reset disk 3 because it doesn't even acknowledge it exists. So let me exit out, type exit twice. Once to get out of the disk part utility, the second exit is to get out of the command prompt utility. And then let's shut this unit down entirely. I'm just curious if it needs to be powered off for that third drive to appear. So once this powers off, right there, it just powered down. I'm now going to turn it back on. There it goes, just now. Drive number 3 is giving me a green light and a blue light. None of the other drives are doing that. So that may be an indicator that I don't have it fully seated, or something could be wrong with the drive. Now that blue light just went away, and I don't know why the blue light only came on for drive number 3. But when the drive is reading or writing, we should see the blue light flicker. So maybe that was part of an initialization in the BIOS. Let's see if it appears now when I go to the command prompt and run it as administrator. Then we'll click to list disk. Sorry, I gotta go into the disk part. Get ahead of myself. There we go. Now let's list. No, still not seeing drive 3. If I pop out drive number 3, let me just take it out of there. And now I type list disk. Yeah. So what's happening right now, so you can see what I'm doing, is I have slid out drive number 3. And I just want to see that I'm completely sat all the way down. And I want to reinsert it to make sure it's installed all the way in. Oh, I'm hearing it spin up. Okay, now I'm going to go back over here. And I doubt it's going to show it to us. I think we're going to need to reboot. Yeah, let's go ahead and reboot it. I have to be able to see the drives before I configure anything, right? Like RAID, etc. You really need 2 drives for RAID 0, RAID 1, and 3 drives or more for RAID 5. So let's see what happens this time, because I know that drive is powered on. If it's not recognizing, I could have a faulty drive. These drives have just been sitting on a shelf. There's no reason I can think of like why they wouldn't work, but it is what it is. So let's just find out. Go back over to the command, run as administrator, and list. Oh, I keep wanting to jump ahead. Disk part, list disk. It's just not there, is it? All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go into the BIOS and just verify those drive ports are turned on. So to do that, we'll hit start, power down. Let's restart. And as the machine starts booting, And I will start pressing the delete key, which I'm guessing will get us into the BIOS. Pressing the delete key. There we go. All right, let's see what we got in here. SATA configuration. Okay, SATA port 0, SATA port 1. It doesn't show us 2 or 3, does it? I wonder why. NVMe config right here. Compatibility support mode, not interested in. SATA, that's where I was, right? Power management is in here. SDIO, that's fine. Chipset, security, boot options, save and exit. Okay. Under SATA configuration, I don't see any options. I just see information. So where do I configure RAID? There's fan controls, temperature controls. That's all good to see. CPU configuration. USB configuration. Okay. Compatibility support mode. Oh, I think we want this off. Let's save and exit with compatibility. That's like for putting Windows 7 on this thing, you'd want CSM on. Other than that, why would... maybe there's some versions of Linux that are so sort of obsolete in the technology they require. Not a dig on Linux, I'm just telling you. You don't want CSM mode on Windows, not on Windows 11 or Windows 10. So that's not for Windows use. It might have been misconfigured from the factory. Let's see if that makes any difference here. You see Windows still loads up fine with compatibility support mode on or off. It doesn't affect Windows loading. But it can affect the features within. So let's take a look here. We'll go back to command, CMD, run as administrator. We'll type in disk part and list disk. No help. But okay, here's what you need to know. If you turn compatibility support mode on, typically options for RAID disappear. And you need to save the BIOS and exit, and then go back into the BIOS one more time after you have disabled CSM. You cannot see the changes in the BIOS that are affected by CSM being on or off without saving and exiting and going back in again. And I missed, while I was talking, I missed hitting the button on time. So what I'm getting at is it's my understanding and my history and experience in this industry that if you want to change your drive modes and you don't have certain modes available, it's probably because your CSM setting is turned on. So turn it off, save and exit, and then go back into the BIOS, and you should have some new options in there. And that's even on the system you have now. You could be able to verify what I'm telling you. Now, whether or not you see the difference, I can't speak for you, but there will be a difference in your BIOS. You'll have options you didn't have before if you turn it off, and you'll have options missing if you turn it on. But you have to save and exit for those changes to take effect, and then go back in it again, now with CSM mode off. Let's see what we've got as far as any options for our drive for what can be called VMD or RAID. Let's take a look in here for any of that. A lot of memory stuff here, CPU stuff, but where is the CSM? That's disabled now, right? Yeah, good. Won't be under USB. It won't be under CPU. It shouldn't be under the hardware monitor. Still no options under the SATA config. Should not be under power management. And it shouldn't be under trusted computing, which deals with things like TPM. So all of that looks fine. What we're looking for is specifically based on the controller, which is not here. It wouldn't be security. It would not be the dual boot mode. Oh, let's change that to UEFI. Aha. Save and exit. So again, if you're going to put Linux TrueNAS, something Linux based on it, that's what CSM and dual boot mode is for. If we want to run this in Windows as a RAID, it should be, in theory, it should be doable. Shane Perkins says storage space is used as a software RAID. Yeah, but none of it won't see the drive. If your BIOS won't see the drives, there's no software that will see the drives. Period. You must see them in the BIOS first. If you put things in the wrong order, you're going to be wasting a lot of time with an impossible task to see something that can't be seen until you eventually figure out what I just told you. So I'm telling you so you don't have to figure that out on your own. I can tell you right now, if you're not going to see the drives in the BIOS, you aren't going to see the drives in Windows. Now, since I've saved the BIOS, I have not gone back into it because I wasn't thinking and I let Windows reboot. So now I'm kind of curious if if the BIOS is seeing the drives, then Windows may see the drives. So let's try one more time just to take a quick look-see since I'm already here. But what I should have done is, first of all, gone back into the BIOS and looked. Hasn't made a change yet, okay? So that's fine. Let's go back in the BIOS again. So out of the box, this is only set up, at least the one they sent me, to recognize 2 mechanical drives. So I'm going to start pressing delete this time. Let's see what happens. And see if we have the options now. CBS, isn't it CBS? I can't remember. It's based on the drive controller, and it should be in here somewhere if I could find it. SATA controller. This is what I've been looking for. Enabled SATA mode. RAID. See that? Function. Oh, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. So that was under SATA configuration options. I don't know when that appeared, but it wasn't there before. Rewind the video. If I'm wrong, let me know. But that's what I've been looking for this whole time. I hope I'm not lying. That was under the PCH common options, which is located under advanced. Now with the RAID setup, save and exit. And with RAID setup, we should see some more options in the BIOS. After we save the BIOS, we go back into it again. And let's see if we can adjust the RAID. We should be able to do that in the BIOS. W. Holmes says we could have a bad bay. We could. Yeah, that's true, but you're getting a little ahead of me here. So let's go back under advanced, under SATA configuration. It still only sees port 0 and port 1. It doesn't show us port 2 and port 3, which is a little disconcerting. It should be there. It's not our north bridge or our south bridge. It shouldn't be under PCI Express unless we're dealing with either the LAN or the NVMe drive. Hardware monitor. ACEMAGIC, I think, needs to do a little bit better job here on the default BIOS configuration, but I don't know what these storage hierarchies are referring to. You know, if a seasoned technician is having some trouble with it, I don't know what the average end user is supposed to do. Nothing for us there. Okay, so where we're sitting at, let me save these changes and reboot. Where we're sitting at right now is we have drive ports number 2 and number 3 are absent from the BIOS, meaning it's not seeing the second 2 ports. Whether that's because of a problem like a disconnected or loose cable, or if it's a BIOS setting, I'm not sure yet. So what we'll do, let me come back over to, tell you what, let's turn this off, because clearly we're not going to see it. Let's just shut it down. Another option is if the drives, the way it was configured, are not hot swappable, then the machine has to be physically powered off. And that may be all it takes. So I want to try the easy thing first, which is don't install or remove drives on this until it is, you know, if you see an option for hot swappable, which you do in many BIOSes, and you want to be able to pull the drives out while it's on, which you should be able to do on a proper NAS, you need to make sure that the hot swap option is turned on in the BIOS. But the hot swap option may not be there until you enable other features in the BIOS, like turning off CSM mode, okay, for an example. So with the machine off, now we'll turn it back on, and I want you to see the lights. Ooh, let me turn this around. It's getting heavy with the drives in it. Come over here, turn this on. Now you see the lights power up. You see the blue light right here? Blue light just went out, and then you'll see as it loads, the drives are all getting power. So it's somewhat connected. At least we can verify we're getting power. So if we're getting power, that implies the connector's attached. So then why aren't we getting the data? That implies a communication problem, which could be the BIOS itself. I'm not sure yet. There's still a lot of possibilities, but I don't want to overthink it. And in just that amount of time, it's incredibly fast. 8 gigs of RAM, again. So let's go here, and let's type, back over to the command. I'm just curious, run as administrator. I should be just going into the BIOS. Because if the BIOS won't see it, we're not going to see it in Windows. But since I was busy looking at the lights, that opportunity passed me by. So yeah, we're still in the same situation here. We're going to close that out, and we're going to go over to restart, and we're going to get in the BIOS this time. Give it just a moment. Start pressing the delete key, and that should take us into the BIOS. SATA config. Yeah, so we're still only seeing SATA port 0 and SATA port 1. That's all CPU stuff. You know, if the NVMe drive is taking up 2 additional lanes and times 4, I wonder if it comes at a cost of disabling the other 2 SATA ports. It could be something that simple. Let me just take a look here. The way they've phrased everything in here doesn't make it obvious in plain English. So I'm trying to imagine what they would call that. This is all RAM. Yeah, that's all RAM stuff. PCIe configuration. Let's change it to, just out of curiosity, I don't think this is what I'm looking for, but I think that's more about power consumption. SATA configuration options. SATA mode. AHCI. I thought I had SATA mode set to RAID. Didn't I? And then sometimes you'll see the option for hot swappable in here, but before I make any more changes, let's save and exit and immediately go back in the BIOS. Give that just a second. Start pressing delete. See if we can find it. A little treasure hunt. Maybe something I will revert to the documentation if I have to, but I got a feeling the documentation isn't even going to explain this. Where was I? Advanced SDIO? No, what was it called? I forgot. SATA configuration. So just sees port 0 and port 1. We're still not seeing ports 2 and ports 3. This should just be security stuff, yeah. So that's not what we're looking for. What if I turn off PCIe by 4? What if we put this to auto? I'm just curious. Save and exit, and then immediately go back in the BIOS again. I'm curious if ports 2 and 3 suddenly appear, if there's lane sharing. Nope, not it. And I thought I put this in RAID mode, didn't I? Could it be a power problem? Let's set it to auto. Audio, I don't know. I don't know what that's for. I'll just put it all on auto. When you're not certain, select auto. Same works with a point and shoot camera too. Let's go back into the BIOS after we save and exit here. See if anything has made any difference. Nope. I'm going to save and exit, let it boot into Windows, and then we're going to go ahead and shut it off. And I'm going to move, you know what I'm going to do? I got an idea. While this boots, let's try something else. Let's take out drive bay 4, and let's change both the drive and the bay at the same time. That locks in. Again, I don't know what this is supposed to do. Does not seem to be doing anything. Got to keep that open. Okay. Set it there for a second. This time, let's, maybe by plugging it in while it's on creates a problem. Did I kill something? Because I don't know I don't know how this is being finicky, because it shouldn't be so easy to remove. If that's the case, that would be a pretty significant design flaw in my opinion. But shouldn't hurt anything. You should still be able to hot swap a drive. Even if the drive's not hot swappable, it shouldn't damage anything. It just may require a reboot. But what do I know? All right, so let's go back over here for a second. And in my experience, I have hot swapped drives before, and it doesn't hurt anything. It just, the drive doesn't get recognized until the reboot. Okay, so we're going to let that power off. We'll come back over here to camera 1. And let's take, I'll tell you what, let's leave that drive in and let's plug this drive in. So now we have all 4 drives. Maybe it only works in pairs. I mean, you just use your, let's see, Gary Tatum says drives on ports 2 and 3 will only show up under the PCIe storage chipset submenus under a dedicated as media controller. He says, I've been asking AI while you've been working, and it says drives 2 and 3 are controlled by a secondary as media PCIe to SATA controller. They won't show as normal. But the drivers should already be in Windows, right? Because it's a factory loaded Windows. It's not our install of Windows. So the as media drivers should be in there. Let's turn it on. Okay, so we're getting some lights. Now it's really heavy. Oh, okay. And now let's jump back over here. I'm going to hit delete if I didn't wait too long. Okay, so again, it only shows 2 SATA on the SATA controller. So the question is, where is the as media controller? I would assume when I put it in RAID mode, that's not what I'm looking for. Keep forgetting where I was. SDIO is where I was, right? No. Where was it? Was it AMD CBS? Yeah. Keeps falling back to AHCI. And as for the other controller, let's just scroll through here and see. We'll see another controller listed. Definitely don't have EMC or eMMC. System control. No, it's not there. None of this made any difference for us. That's all storage base. Everything's set to auto, so that you'd think would auto adjust based on the number of drives if it needed to enable or disable the as media based on power management, trusted computing. That's just monitoring. I wonder if it has something to do with this. It's over my head. Let's just put everything to auto. Like I said, if you're not sure, auto will usually give you the best of whatever options you have. Not always, but usually that's your safe bet. And then taking it out of auto would be a more advanced option for people who know what they're doing or more familiar with this level of advanced BIOS setting. And I missed getting into the BIOS. Yeah, so if we're not seeing the drives in the BIOS, we're not going to see the drives in Windows, regardless of hardware or software RAID support. All right, let's go full screen over here. We'll check our device manager, see if there's any drivers missing, but again, that won't affect whether or not the BIOS is seeing the drives. If the BIOS won't see the drives, there's no point thinking anything past that. You're just wasting your time. So yeah, all the drivers are installed. I don't know that it sees an ASMedia controller here. I guess that would be under what? IDE, and we just have standard AHCI controller. And then under storage controllers here, is there an ASMedia? I don't see it here either. So is it disabled in the BIOS? And if so, what's it called? Because I don't see it called by name, by ASMedia. You know, I'm kind of curious, if we open up Gemini, and get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this, and uncheck that. Let's see. I screwed that up. Since this is a new model, there may not be much information. So let's say on a AOO star WTR Pro, how to enable ASMedia controller. Let's see what it says. I'm assuming they're both the same. The ASMedia controller is enabled by default in the BIOS. Okay, how can you verify it? Enable IOMMU in Proxmox. That doesn't help me. I want to know in the BIOS. Check the BIOS settings. Advanced or chipset, SATA, onboard device. That's what I'm looking for. Ensure that SATA is set to AHCI. Do not set it to RAID. Okay. Okay. Maybe I'm in my own way here. Wouldn't be the first time. Shut it down. Let's go into BIOS. Let's take another look at what our options are, because I think I set it to auto, right? Let's see. So there's no options within this page. Under SDIO, I always want to go into SDIO. It's the wrong one. SATA mode AHCI. I think if we just do it that way, and save and exit, Let it reboot again. I guess I'll have to spend some time off camera monkeying around with this. This is probably not the most riveting video to watch, but the reason I show this is to show how intuitive a design is, right? If I'm a computer technician for the last 35 years, and it's not obvious to me that I haven't seen this dozens and dozens and dozens of times before, then they're doing something different from everybody else. And I just have to figure out what it is that's different, or reach out to their support and have them explain it to me, depending on if I want to do the work or if I want to be lazy and just make them do the work. But inherently, if I'm struggling with it, that's not a good sign. This is a first generation product though, which to be expected. If this was a third generation product, it would be unacceptable. What is disk 1? Oh. So we're seeing disk 0 that we never saw before. Okay, so disk 0 is one of the 8 terabyte drives. Let me clean it. That's interesting. Let's run, let's do select disk 0. And let's clean it. We should have one more 8 terabyte drive that is not showing up. In fact, you know what I want to do? Nah, that's all right. Let's just start with the basics. Disk management should pop up automatically. You must initialize the disk. Oh, this looks like it wants to do initialization on just 0, 2, and 3. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So we've made some progress. We're missing one of the drives for some reason, and it's going to be one of the bottom 2. Nothing indicates anything's wrong. So what I'm curious about is, let's go back in the BIOS and see if the ASMedia controller option is there to identify which one it's seeing. So I'm going to start pressing delete. We'll get into the BIOS. And we should have an ASMedia window here. Still don't see anything with the ASMedia. Where is it? It's weird, I can't find it in here. I think at this point, since we're now seeing one of the drives and not the other one, it's got to be in the BIOS and it's just not showing it to us. There may be like a key, like an advanced key, or sorry, a key press like Control F5 or something to show hidden items in the BIOS. It shouldn't be hidden though. I'm going to boot this up one more time. And I want to check something. Even though these aren't hard swappable, I'm going to do it anyway. Like I said, it shouldn't hurt anything. It just won't work until a reboot. That's the reality. The boilerplate disclaimers don't do it, right? That's just, we're just going to tell you not to. And then that way, if anything happens, it's your fault. Even though in my experience, the worst you have to do is reboot. Okay, so there you see drive. Disk 0 is 8 terabytes. Disk 1 is the NVMe drive. That's 120 gigs. I'm going to pop out disk number 3. We're just going to unplug it. And I'm going to type list disk again and see if that disk 0 gets removed. List disk. No. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take disk number 4 out and plug it into disk number 3 slot. Now right now I should only see 3 drives. Let's see, list disk. Is it going to show us? Yep. And now I want to plug this one back in. Give that a second to power up. That's in slot number 3 instead of slot number 4 now. I hear it spinning up, but it probably requires a reboot. Yeah, it's not going to appear now. Or it's not going to appear at all. Let's find out. Let's shut this down entirely. Perfect. And then let's fire it back up. The power button, you really have to push it in. I like that. So it's not going to be accidentally pressed. Plus, it's got that little safety cover over it. So I like that design. I think that's very thoughtful that it's not going to be accidentally shut off. You have to really have intention to turn it on or to turn it off by using the power button. Okay, we boot back into Windows. We'll bring up our command. It does not see the drive in slot number 3. So I'm going to remove the drive out of slot number 3. And we're going to place it back into slot number 4. Again, even though it's not hot swappable, I'm doing this while the power is on. I'm still waiting for the drive to spin up. I'm hearing it now. And there it is, right? Yeah, there it is. And then I put anything into drive slot number 3. Let me make sure I get it all the way in there. Maybe there's something blocking it. Let me give that a second. I hear the drive spinning up. It's alive. There does seem to be some kind of a communication issue with it. We're looking for a number 4 to appear. We have 0, 1, 2, and 3. So that's the NVMe drive listed first, and then mechanical drives 1, mechanical drive 2, mechanical drive 3, which is actually in slot 4. But where is mechanical drive 4? Not there. Doesn't exist. Okay, one more time, we're going to reboot. So at this point now, I'm very confident the BIOS is set up correctly. And I know it's not the drive. because we took a working drive out of slot 4, put it in slot 3. It worked just fine. So let's do a reboot real quick, one real fast test, and then assuming nothing's changing, we can inspect it. See if there's anything by just simply looking inside with a flashlight, see if there's anything obvious. Beyond that, we could open it up and see if there's any loose cables or anything like that, or if it's not, if the circuit board isn't seated flush, if it got moved in shipping where it's not sitting flush. So when the drive plugs into it, if it's not firm back there, it's moving out of the way. But for whatever reason, we are getting power. That's what's throwing me. If we weren't getting any power, then I'd say, seems like we're not making a connection. But the fact that I see the power light come on next to the drive and I hear the drive spin up, that means we're getting power but not getting data. And if it were the controller, it should affect both drives 3 and 4 together, not just one. Yeah, nothing's changed. So with that, let me go ahead and shut it down. Now, this isn't something a consumer would be expected to know how to do. And if you're really aiming this product to be a mini PC that can be expanded into a NAS, they've got a little bit more refinement to make it consumer friendly. The way that BIOS is shipping with compatibility support now, with compatibility support enabled, implies they think you're going to put TrueNAS or Unraid or Zima OS on it, but yet they ship it with Windows 11. Maybe they don't adjust the BIOS regardless if it's shipping with bare bones or sorry, without a drive, without RAM, or if they do add a drive and RAM, it's after it leaves manufacturing facility and they're doing that separately. But I think that if they're going to add the drive and RAM separately, they should also make the changes in the BIOS before boxing it up. Because I think the changes in the BIOS are there for the bare bones unit, assuming they're going to not put Windows on this. So that we got a mixed message here, right? We're getting a mixed message in that if you want to use this as a NAS, you'd put TrueNAS or Unraid or Zima OS, et cetera, et cetera. And if you want to use it as a mini PC, you could just load it up as storage spaces in Windows and share it on your network. But the BIOS, because Windows, you know, it's a bigger target, right? I wouldn't want to run a NAS off Windows personally. It's too big of a target. But you could, and you just got to make sure you keep your antivirus and your updates currently up to date. Or if you just wanted a big D drive to use personally, obviously that would be fine too. And if I wanted to run this as a NAS, I would probably want to run TrueNAS or Unraid or Zima OS, and I'm only naming those up. There's Open Media Vault and Proxmox and a bunch of other stuff you could put on there, but that's not what I do. I'm not interested in it. But if I was an end user, especially an enthusiast, and that's what I wanted, I would probably just build my own. So if we're trying to attract the the average consumer, this needs to be, they need to pick a lane. That's all I'm trying to say. It's like they can't make up, ACEMAGIC can't make up their mind what they're selling here. On the one hand, the box says it's a mini PC. On the other hand, the website says it's a NAS, but the BIOS is configured for Linux when it's already been installed with Windows 11. Somebody at ACEMAGIC is confused, and therefore it's leading everybody who buys it to be confused. So now I understand better why the NAS reviewers missed this. It totally makes sense why they missed it, because ACEMAGIC has not made it clear, even in the way they configure it at the factory. So I understand better. I see now. If it's confusing me, and I'm mainly a PC reviewer. Imagine if I was mainly a NAS reviewer, and I don't normally review mini PCs, how it would equally confuse them. So they have, ACEMAGIC has effectively confused us both. So what I'm curious about, just a visual inspection. Let's get it unplugged. Let's see if we can identify any visual problem in slot number 3. All you have to do is use your eyeballs and look. What software do you use for that, Carey? This one. Not much to see in here. Right? Let me get a light. Looks fine. I don't see any damage. Slot seems perfectly fine. There's one other thing we can test, because we don't know if we have a bad slot. In other words, the circuit board behind the slot. We don't know if we have a bad tray, if the drive isn't seated in the tray correctly. What we do know is that when we move this drive, we take this out and we move it up here, it works perfectly. So logically, we don't have a problem with the slot, and me looking in there didn't make any sense. Now that I've said it out loud, I realize the step I missed in my logic. In theory, this drive, let me think about this for a minute now. This drive could be faulty. It's possible. Let's take out this one. We know this one works. And let's move it to slot 3. No, you know what? I'm adding too many variables. You got to start with as minimal of components as possible. So does this drive have a problem? We know for sure the first 2 slots we will see in the BIOS. I don't know why we're not seeing the second 2 slots. That's another problem. Let's not compile all of our problems on top of each other. Let's take one problem at a time. We'll start at the beginning. So let's pop that in. And also, by the way, let me make sure I've got this drive seated properly. Maybe it's in crooked and I just can't see it. Maybe it's not sitting flat. You can't just visually inspect it. You actually have to take it out. And again, I do feel like this little locking mechanism is doing something, and I have no idea what it's doing. I'm going to pop this out, and I'm just going to reseat it again. Now, I'll tell you something else that could be happening. As I mentioned early on, one of my concerns is this tray that the drive sits in has a metal plate that the drive rests on top of. What if, is it possible, this metal plate is bowing and hitting the bottom of the circuit board under this drive and short-circuiting our ability to communicate with it? Now, in theory, you can see I can bend this. And because it's metal, it maintains that bowed shape. If it were plastic, it wouldn't do that. And if this has been altered in any way from shipping and improper handling, then if it were bowed the opposite way, then that could be making contact. Now, what TerraMaster does when they ship a drive with a metal bottom is they include this little piece of paper. That's all it takes, right? Just a little piece of paper to prevent any contact. But I just want to push it down in a way and then let the drive, when I seat the drive in here, kind of force it into being straight. Isn't that interesting? That is not seated correctly. There should be a big enough gap for that to close down onto. See what I mean? You could misalign this and not even realize it. You could look at it and say, it looks fine, when it isn't. That's why you have to completely remove it. This is true when someone says, check to see if you have a loose cable, and then you look and you don't see it. You can't see a loose cable in a lot of cases. You feel it. And the only way you can feel it is by removing the cable from the connector and reconnecting it on both sides of the cable. If you can't be bothered, hire somebody else to do the work, right? I mean, if you can't be bothered to do the job correctly, if you're that lazy, if your life is all about shortcuts, you're going to be working on problems the rest of us will solve in seconds. And how do you feel if you're that person? It's not because you lack the intelligence, it's because you lack the work ethic to do the job regardless of what your eyes are showing you. You need to feel it. And in some cases, you can confirm your eyes saw correctly. But in other cases, you hear a click you didn't hear before, you go, oh, yeah, my eyes fooled me. Could go either way. And until you check for yourself, you'll never know. You'll just convince yourself, why bother? Whereas a real technician will do the work anyway. And that's why. It doesn't make them better than you. It just means that they, a proper seasoned professional, is already familiar with knowing the limitations and the trickery your eyes can play. And they want to get in and out as quickly as possible. They don't want to talk themselves out of doing the work and coming to a conclusion. Not if they're good. Oh, I can't help you, it's broken. You know, that's not what a professional would do. Even if they call themselves a professional, their behavior, if they exhibit that behavior, suggests they're more of an amateur. So we're going to try this, and I'm just curious if we'll see this drive at all here in slot number 2. If so, then I know the drive is good. I know the tray is good. And then we'll move it back into slot number 3 to see if any of the modifications and reseating it made any change. I'm guessing, if I'm just using my eyes, if I want to be the amateur, I'll say this isn't going to make any difference. If it works here, it's probably still not going to work here. That's my guess. And yeah, have fun guessing. But then test it to see if your guess is right. You could be right. But unless you test it, you're just lying to yourself. You're telling yourself what you want to hear. Even if it's negative, you somehow, for some reason, want to believe negative, you need to verify negative. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I say what I mean what I say. So I wouldn't ask you or recommend you do anything I'm not doing, and I'm explaining to you why I'm doing it, because it may not make sense to you. But trust me, it's a lot of sense. It's just verification to validate that your feelings were right. All right, we'll plug that in, and I can get my network cable and plug that in. If I were training you to be my employee, this is how I would talk to you. This is the kind of work I would expect from you. And I'm telling you, if you want to work for me, if you want to do the quality of work that I do to the standards that I set for myself, this is what I require of you. If you don't want to do that, don't work for me. We'll both be happier. But that doesn't change what my requirements are, and it doesn't mean you have to agree with me, because you don't have to work for me. Places charge money for this, by the way. Schools and technical colleges, they charge money to share with the information. And you as a student, if you're going to sit there in the chair and say this teacher's a moron, you should drop the class and find another class. Find another instructor. And if another instructor tells you the same thing, or tells you something else you strongly disagree with, it's you. Because you're not in a position to teach. You should be taking notes and listening until you are in a position to teach. That's how the teachers who teach, that's how they got there. Generally speaking, they didn't just wake up one morning and decide, here's the rules. They learned it some way, preferably through experience, but also from others who had the experience in order for them to elevate to a teaching position. All right, so with that, let me switch back over here and see if we see this drive right here. Let's see. I'm just going to keep going back to the command prompt. And this is just, you wouldn't have to do it this way. This is just the way I'm choosing to check. We could use the device manager, whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay, so the drive is not a, wait a minute, drive 0, drive 1, drive 2. Yeah, the drive is there. So the drive is fine, right? And the slot is, you know, the tray rather is fine. We are now seeing that 8 terabyte drive for the first time. So now what I want to do, let's go back over to camera 1. And again, even though it's not hot swappable, I'm going to pop that drive out. Just like that, I'm going to leave it there. Let's go back over. And now when I list the disk again, we should only see one 8 terabyte drive. Oh, that pissed it off, didn't it? Yeah, that pissed it off. Did not expect that. Maybe the ACEMAGIC controller handles the hot swapping better than the internal SATA controller. So I don't have much choice right now. And I would have had to reboot anyway, but now I'm just going to go ahead and pull the power, force it off. I'm going to take this drive that was acknowledged, and we're going to plug it in back where it was, right? Because now we're on the ACEMAGIC controller here. Put power back in and turn this back on. See how hard I have to push that button in for this to come on. There we go. Yeah, I really got to push it in pretty far. And then, like I say, there's a little cover that'll cover that power button up so it doesn't get accidentally pressed in. But as much force and how deep that has to go, I kind of think the cover's redundant. So let's go back over here, boot back into Windows and see if we can see the other drive again, or if it's still going to be missing. I think it's still going to be missing. There's something else going on here. But again, I need to verify. I can think what I want. You're welcome to use your imagination and daydream all kinds of imaginary things in your head. But when you're working, right, you need to focus on what you're getting paid to do. All right, let's get over here. CMD, run as administrator. Yes. This part, list disk. Yeah, just as I predicted. That's okay. You know, it's okay to be predicting and being correct, as long as you always verify. Don't assume. So something's going on with this drive in slot 3. Let's move the drive to slot 4. This is getting interesting. Let's exit out, shut down. We know the drive works in slot number 2. It's not working in slot 3, and we haven't changed the drive or the tray. So this is a constant. It constantly works here. It constantly doesn't work here. And let's move it down here. Wonder if there could be a firmware difference on these. I never thought of that till just now. Let's turn this back on. Allow this to boot back into Windows. We'll check one more time. I think it's not going to appear here. Generation 1 product, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump back over to this machine. And let's go back over to CMD. Run as administrator. See, by removing all the other drives, we're taking out confusion. Disk part, list, disk, list, disk. I can't read it, it's too small. Hold on a minute. Okay, it sees it now. I wonder if it's the configuration, because I think this drive that says it's got like a clean drive should show the same number on both size and free. So this was previously configured. So let's select disk 0. See, that's not good if you're using dirty drives. Let's clean it. Now when we list disk, they should both look the same. Okay, perfect. Disk 1 is our NVMe drive. So the drive is now recognized properly in slot number 4. I'm going to restart the computer. And I want to verify when I restart back into Windows that I still see that drive in slot number 4, that nothing changes. And I wasn't able to clean the drive until now because I couldn't see the drive. And maybe something in slot number 3 had an issue, which I cannot explain, with that drive the way it was formatted. So with the drive clean now, let's see if that makes a difference. We're trying to find what's different about this drive than the other three. The other three we've got cleaned. This one we weren't able to. All right, so let's go back to CMD, back over to Run as Administrator, back over to Disk Part, and list the disks. It's still there. Perfect. That's what I want to see. Okay, so let's exit and exit again, and we're going to shut her down. Shut her down. Actually, no. You know what? Let's have a little fun. Let me go back in there. CMD, Run as Administrator. Let's go right back where we were. Because remember, I swapped disk 4 into disk 3, and it recognized it. I think the ASMedia controller is hot swappable. This isn't the proper way to do it, but I want to have a little fun. This is my own way of torturing the computer in exchange for it torturing me. This is nerd revenge. So what I'm going to do is run disk part and list the disks again. Then I'm going to come over here to camera 1. I want you to see what I'm about to do. I'm going to take disk 4 right there, move it back here where it's never worked ever before. Make sure it gets all the way in there. Okay. Give it a second. We should hear it spinning up. Zzz. It's spinning up now. So let's get back over to the desktop. It's not there anymore. So let's restart. As one final test. I think it's either the firmware on the drive itself is different than the other three. That's my first guess. And then my second guess would simply be to just grab another hard drive. I'd have to look at the details of each drive BIOS and see if this one is different than the other three. It's possible. They may not have been from the same batch. CMD, Run as Administrator. So this drive was working and acknowledged in slot number 4. And it's not there anymore. Okay. Now, for full transparency, these drives were sent to me from Synology. They are Synology branded drives, even though Synology doesn't make them. There's no reason why these drives would have to be used with a Synology device. They should work in anything. But out of curiosity, let me go over to my parts area and see what else I have to try that's more traditional, like Western Digital or Seagate. I know I have some more. I think we have a drive firmware issue. That's what I believe it is. And that would be a compatibility issue in the BIOS that would be fixed one of two ways, either updating the firmware on the drive or updating the BIOS in the system. And since it's a Generation 1 product with regards to the NAS, you know what? Here's a Synology 4 terabyte drive I've got laying around. What else do I have? Oh, the heck with it. Let's just use this one. I really shouldn't be using Synology drives in this, but they should work. And I would have to pull up the details of the drive to look at the firmware, unless it's written on the sticker. Maybe it's on the label. Okay, so I got another one. I don't think I have any more of these 8s. Let's go ahead and pop that bad boy out of there. There we go. And let's see if there's a firmware revision written on the label. It's such tiny little print. Part number, serial number, part number, firmware 1403. 1403. Well, so much for that theory, huh? Sounded good though, didn't it? Sounded good to me. I'm still very confused over this latch. What is this doing? Doesn't seem to be doing anything. So I'll have to spend some time off camera. This is very different from the other units, the other even mini PCs we've seen. Doesn't pull up or push down. Nope. Doesn't slide, move in any way. So I don't know what that's locking. Doesn't matter. It's more of just a morbid curiosity at this point. Okay, so we're going to take this one, I'll move it over there, keep that away from the rest, and put this bad boy in here. Just curious if I can see what this latch is doing. It seems to be... Oh. No, not doing anything. These are just bits of plastic that are holding the drive in. I can't imagine this is doing anything at all. I'll definitely need some documentation to figure out what this is doing. Because as far as I can tell, when the only thing that's moving is this button here. So what purpose does this serve? It locks in. It doesn't release this door. It doesn't prevent the button from being pressed in. And these devices themselves, they're just bits of plastic. They have no control. So this is a puzzle. It's fun to play with. Maybe it's a fidget spinner for young technicians. It doesn't seem to serve any purpose that I can figure out. Okay, that one's in. We'll pop that one. Let's start with drive 3 here. Put that back in there. Is it all the way in? Okay. Give that a second to initialize. Let's jump. Oops, drop my power supply. Let's jump back over to the desktop. No signal. What do I do? Okay. Let me unplug it. Wait a second. Plug it back in. And we'll turn this back on. There we go. Hearing the drive spin up. You should get a power on self-test here in just a moment. There we go. And let's see if we see 3 drives. The NVMe, the drive in slot 1, and the drive we just added to slot 3. So give that a minute to load. Hey, there's Mitch Morrison joining us. Welcome in, Mitch Morrison. All right. Let's see what happens this time. CMD. Administrator. Yes. This part. List disk. Sees it. Okay. Well, you know, you can't make stuff like this up, and especially on a live video. I really appreciate what the lesson is here, because I want to tell you what we can determine from what we've learned today. I can't explain it, but I can MacGyver it. I've shut the unit back off, okay? And I'm going to take this drive out. So we understand and know that slot 3 does work, that the tray is fine, but it doesn't make any sense because the... Hold on. There we go. That didn't sound right. Let me show you something. Logically, everything should work if we put the drive, this drive that's not working in slot 3, all the other drives seem to work in slot 3 but that one. So don't put that in slot 3. Use it in slot 1, 2, or 4, and put the other 2 in the remaining slots. I bet we see all 4 drives. The only way this can happen is just through Murphy's Law, that I just happen to put that drive in that slot. If I'd have picked any of the other 3 into that slot, we'd be ignorant and think everything is fine. That's just dumb luck. But let me just verify, right? This is my conclusion from the data I've collected. I think I have all the data now that I can confirm this theory. Of course, the only way to confirm the theory is to try it. I still don't understand how you're supposed to get the drives out. But we're going to send this video to ACEMAGIC to show them where we're struggling and see what they can do to improve the experience. It is a new product, and this is a new market for them. And if we can give them a leg up and help them overcome some of these obstacles to make this a more seamless process, I think they're going to have a much better sales of the product. And not because people see our video, but because they won't need to if ACEMAGIC addresses this in-house. That'll be their choice. We'll see what they choose to do. Or maybe they just say, hey, Carey, you should read the documentation and leave us alone. I doubt they're going to do that. I'm still struggling to get this out of here. I don't see what point this serves. It doesn't seem to serve any purpose at all. Maybe it's there to keep you from putting the drive in too far. And I don't know why it lifts out of the way though. Unless somehow that helps you take the drive out with it being out of the way. It doesn't seem to physically be changing any physical movement of any of the retention hardware, because that's all just spring-loaded individually. There's no master spring mechanism. Each one of these is individually spring-loaded into the holes in the side of the drive. See, like that one I can get out. This one does not want to come out. So let me try. This is one of those thinner hard drives, whereas these are twice as thick. So this one I'm struggling with it partly because it's so thin, it's kind of recessed down into the tray. The other ones are above the tray. See that little tab right there? It's really in the mounting hole pretty tight. I'm going to use my spudger, see if I can't spudge it out. There it goes. Okay, finally. All right, let's try my theory. Put that little guy back down. that in right up against that little thing that we just slid down. It locks in nice and easy, right? It's not falling out. And don't put this in slot 3. Literally put it in any other slot. Let's put it in slot 2. And then these don't matter. By the way, none of this should matter. So that's why I'm putting the blame on ACEMAGIC here. And why I'm not upset about it is it's a Generation 1 product, and this should be expected. If you want to be the first to get something, then you'll be the first to experience any sort of weird issues. And we appreciate your sacrifice, so the rest of us don't have to deal with it. Once the manufacturer's aware of it and corrects it, it's corrected forever. And there could be other problems, but that problem is resolved. So thank you for being first. Let's go ahead and turn this back on. Here we go. And let's see if we see all 4 drives. Okay, place your bets. So you're going to see all the drives now. No, it still only sees 3 of them. Okay, so we move that drive to slot number 2. So let's open up slot number 2. Let me come back over here and show you what I'm about to do. If it's the same drive that we're not seeing, this one right here, let's pop it out. This froze me up last time I used it did that on one of the first 2 slots. It's not freezing it up on the second 2. I'm curious if that's consistent behavior as well. Let's go back and check. Can I type list disk again? Yeah, see, it seizes. So you can't hot swap the first 2 trays. That's not working. But we will unplug the unit and plug it back in. And then turn it back on. And again, we're powering it up now with that particular drive out of, we're just resting it. As you can see, we're just resting it outside just to see if we still see 3 drives. Let's find out. That tells me there's some incompatibility with that drive, which would usually indicate firmware. But it's saying it's got the latest firmware on there. So let's take a look at our disk part again. So CMD. Normally I would just be looking in the BIOS, but I can't see where to find the ASMedia controller. So I'm kind of doing this the hard way, but at least it's getting it done. Oh, isn't that interesting? So now it's not only seeing what appears to be the drive in slot 3. Watch this. I'm going to take drive 3 out. Let's eject drive 3. And I bet it won't change a damn thing. It didn't change anything. All right. All right. Let's take a look at the data. So we've got 2 drives out. It only sees 2 drives. It sees both this drive and it sees this drive. And it was, in fact, seeing this drive it wasn't seeing before. Watch. We're going to shut this back down. I'm just going to unplug it just to make this quick. We're going to slot this back in. And just for fun, I'm going to swap this drive out. Let's take out drive 1. And let's put it in slot 3. And let's take this drive and put it in slot 1. What we're trying to figure out is if we have a drive problem or a slot problem. And what I'm looking at looks like a slot issue. Let's find out. Turn it back on. See the blue lights coming on? That's normal. There's no indication of an error from looking at the lights. So this is a compatibility issue. Something's not compatible, and I'm very puzzled about it. So let's go back over to desktop here. It did not like me shutting it off like that. That's fine. Just tell it to ignore it. It'll be okay. I gotta make my screen bigger. I think I'm typoing and I can't see it. Yeah, so slot 3, I'm gonna eject the drive in slot 3. I'm gonna pop it out of there. And then we're gonna do the list disk, and I bet nothing changes. Yep, nothing's changed. Popping that drive in or out is making no difference. So, something to do with the slot, not the tray and not the drive. That much is all we know at this point. It's not a firmware compatibility issue like I initially thought. Something is not recognizing the drive in slot number 3, which looks to me like maybe we still have a loose cable. Maybe we were sent a defective unit. I don't believe that this is... I would be curious if they could reproduce this at ACEMAGIC, because I think it's unique to this unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Let's go back here and shut this off properly. We go back over to, yeah, over here. And then let's go ahead and shut this down properly. Okay, now that's off. Now we can unplug it. So we know it's not a drive issue. It's not a firmware issue. It's not a compatibility issue. There's something physically not working on this. Physically. And the only way that you can really fix this would be a visual inspection of the internals to see if there's anything obvious. A loose cable would explain this. Now, I don't know if we can even open this up, and we're almost at a 3-hour point, but let me just take a quick look. We also have this bottom area, which I did not disclose to you earlier. Underneath here, we have an option to remove this panel for access to the NVMe slots and the RAM. We know it functions as a mini PC just fine. And we know that you can add storage to it just fine. If you want to use it as a NAS and you want to load true NAS on it, you know, again, that would probably make more sense for you to just build your own, but you don't have to. There's the inside. You can see our NVMe and our RAM. The other socket is empty, so it does support dual channel. Really nothing else we can get into on this side of things. Do I see any way to disassemble it? Over here, I see 4 rubber plugs, which the camera may have a difficult time locating. And they are right here, there's a rubber plug. Let me turn this up like so. Let's get a little something, little pokey tool in there and see if we can't pop those things out of there. Let's see, what do oh, I forgot I just replaced my my probes. Harbor Freight's like $5. There we go. Oh, I see. They're stuck on with adhesive. I thought they'd be plugs, but they're stick on. That's disappointing. But at this price range, you know, what do you expect? Let me get my higher magnification glasses out now, because now things are getting real. Let's pop out this one here. So I only see two. I thought there were two more up here. This does not seem to come off. So this vent piece. So I only see two rubber plugs. Well, shouldn't call them plugs because they're adhesive. And they're stuck on. And then behind them, what are they hiding? Screws. So we take this one out here. Okay. Keep that with the feet. This one out here. You can't tell me this whole thing's being held together with two screws, right? You're not going to tell me that, are you? Mm-hmm. Take that out. Are there screws underneath of these feet? I hate having to take off the bottom feet like this because usually there aren't any screws under here. And then it's difficult sometimes to get them to re-stick back on, or they don't just start falling off on their own. I don't know. Those two screws can't be what's holding this whole thing together. It's got to have more than that. But this is not budging. The only thing I can imagine is that this outer shell appears to be one solid clamshell that this piece slides into, and that it's being held in with two screws here. And my guess is there's screws under these feet that I really don't want to remove. Now, this isn't something you would ordinarily be opening up, but just the same, putting these feet on and hiding the screws is definitely discouraging anybody from opening. So what's happening right now is the adhesive is sticking to the base unit instead of to the foot. And this is exactly what happens. And I'm not seeing any screw underneath here. I'm trying to get the adhesive to come off with the foot. Come on. Come on. Nothing. Nothing underneath. Nope, that's just a solid indent into the plastic. Hopefully that foot will stay on. I just want to check the back because there could be screws in the back. I don't think there will be. But we'll do the work to our unit so you don't have to damage yours. Same problem, the adhesive is very, very strong and is sticking to the NAS itself rather than to the foot, which is not good. Let's see if we have any difference here. Oh, that's not good. The adhesive in this case is completely sticking to the NAS. The foot's going to come off without any adhesive on it now. That is not good. That is a very strong adhesive. That foot is not meant to come off. Look, the adhesive is now starting to separate up away from the NAS. This is why I don't like rubber feet. There is no screw here. So this is as I suspected, but I had to prove my suspicion was true. There are no screws underneath these feet. So what else could be holding this unit together? It's got to be obvious. If you can put it together, you can take it apart. Typically, when there's screws in the back, that means the unit would slide out this way. Or this piece of plastic would slide out towards me. Same thing, right? We're just looking at it from two different angles. But normally, just the weight of the unit would force it to slide out by just holding it upside down and just, you know, not too far from the ground. You don't want it to hit the ground. Nothing here. These are just magnets up here, so there's not going to be any screws back behind these. These are just magnets to hold that little cover on. Okay, so we are missing something. My guess is, from all the units I've ever taken apart, that by removing these two screws, some part of this must unclip. That's my guess. But how? You know, I wonder if the AOO WTR Pro, which has been out for a couple of years, has a disassembly video, if somebody's done this already, and that this wouldn't follow the exact same disassembly rules. Because I suspect I'm missing something. They've done a very clever design in trying to hide how they put it together. But I don't know that that's necessary. I mean, they make it very easy for you to access the area they want you to be able to get into, and then they make it very difficult for you to get into areas they don't want you to get into. But I promise you, they can open these up and work on them. And if they can do it, we can do it. I just need to know what the magic word is. W Home says AOO Star has a video. All right, let's take a look. Let me jump back over to camera one for a minute. Let me just jump over here. Type in, let's see, gotta move this out of my way. AOO Star WTR Pro disassemble. No disassemble, Johnny 5. It shows how the AOO Star WTR Pro is being put together, which in theory should be the opposite. So we need to start at the end and work our way backwards. Okay, let me share the video with you guys here. Let's go over to our screen capture. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm looking at this kind of in reverse. So they're putting the cooling fan on, and then they're sliding it down. Just as I said, it looked like it slid out from the front, or slid out from the back rather. And there's the screws that I'm struggling with. So that means the little plastic cover's got to come off. That cover right there. Notice it's got the rubber plugs in it, and he didn't show taking the rubber plugs out. So watch that carefully. Notice he puts the front in first. Then the bottom goes in. So probably the bottom's got to come out first. So once you take those screws out, you do everything backwards. Take the screws out. Again, I don't know, maybe the rubber plugs aren't in there, they're just holes. Then he puts the screws on, and then he covers the screws up. Okay, so we've got the screws out. So the next step will be to remove that plastic piece. And then when the plastic piece, see the screws he's putting in, then those will be the next two screws we take out. Then the whole thing should slide apart. That answers it for me. So let's go back over to camera 1. And let's see if we can't get this to separate from the bottom. It'd have to separate here. And they don't really show you how you're supposed to do that, because the spudger tool, as thin as this is still, it's still not quite thin enough for this job. There's no indentation for us to get in here. I wonder how they're trained at the factory to disassemble this. Because the problem is the metal's not going to bend, right? We'll bend the spudger before we bend this metal. You need to bend the plastic. And usually there'll be like a little slot that you can put a screwdriver or a spudging tool in that this does not have. Nowhere on it do I see an indication for removal. So like I said, I would love to see them at the factory have to open one of these up for any sort of repair or inspection, like let's say it didn't pass QC, because I cannot even, this is a very, very thin blade and it will not go in there. And because he put this side in first, I'm thinking the clips on this side are deeper and this would be harder to remove. Usually the side they're locking in, the clips are less, they're not as deep, they're more shallow. I'm wondering if we couldn't, I don't know, use the holes the screws went into with something like a probing tool and lift up, you know, find a catch in there. Oh, you know what? Maybe. In fact, this is too mini for the fight. I need somebody built for this kind of fight. This little electronics, this is like for changing electrical outlets and things. It's an electrician's screwdriver from Channel Lock. It's an S182A. I love this little guy because it's strong. Also, I do a lot of electrical work around the house, and this helps to release wires, and it helps anytime you're doing home electrical work. But it also just happens to help a lot in the computer repair field. That's why it's in this drawer. So what I'm trying to do is just get this in here, see if I can't catch the inside of it. See, we could scar up the inside of this all day long. No one cares. No one's ever going to see it. And it is moving. So it's not releasing, but it's moving. But at least we're getting some movement. And I am gouging the hole a little bit with the edge of the driver when I'm coming down in here. I can't help but wonder if a combination of these two tools might work together. I'm only getting about 1 millimeter up on this. I need it to release more. Wow. Come on. There we go. Okay. Come on. So just so you can see how much that tool is bending. See how I'm getting this corner started right here? It's hard for me to show you and for me to also see it at the same time. But look how far in I have to go. Look how deep this piece of plastic goes. Oh, I'm hearing things clicking. Okay. So there are no catches here. So you know what that tells me? There are catches here, not here. So what does that tell me? If we put this back in, that tells me if we have some tool, like a chip puller, we can stick it in these vents and grab it and pull it out with a little set of tweezers that have like a chip puller. That would be that easy to take this out, because there are no plastic lip on this side. So we'd come down on this side with a plastic chip puller in these holes and pull it up from the holes. Not the way I did it. The way I did it is the hard way, but without any instruction or tutorial video showing disassembly. This is how we figure things out. And this is a little marked up here, but it's so insignificant, no one would ever notice it. So I'm not worried about it, but I wouldn't take it apart that way again. Now inside, we have a couple of screws that you can see reflecting here, here, and exactly on the opposite side as well. So let's pull those out. You know what? That thing is going to drive me crazy. I'm going to put it on the floor. That's just the power supply. Okay, let's grab our electric driver. Get this done sometime today, Carey. There we go. Well, they had those in there tight. Okay. Grab the fan and pull straight up. What's my malfunction now? Is it RAM or storage getting in the way? That would suck. No, not a problem there. We are hung up on something. Don't force anything, just try and visually inspect. Could be some wires, for example. Something is hanging us up here. Sometimes by pulling on it gently, we can feel if the hang up is on the left, the right, or the up, or the the upside or the downside. I don't see any wires. It looks like it's getting hung up here on the ports. Now I'm feeling it hung up somewhere in this opposite corner towards me, whatever it is. Let me shine a light inside. We don't want to damage anything. There's quite a lot of play. You can see me wiggling it around, trying to work around whatever is stopping us. It doesn't feel like it's a cable. It feels like I'm hitting something solid. Just having trouble locating what it is I'm hitting. Huh. Let me look around from the back side. I mean, the video shows this sliding right in, and they put screws on it. They're not disassembling or removing any cables or attaching any cables in the assembly. So it does feel like something has shifted out of position, maybe in shipping. That might explain the problem we're having too. Let me come back over to camera 1. Let me just take a quick look in the chat and see if anybody's shouting at me that I'm missing something. Looks like the rear fan plate flips up and off. Yeah, how to assemble it. Yeah, mini forum puller. Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Okay, so appreciate that, W.E. Holmes. You're dead on that. But with regards to sliding this out, what am I hitting? It feels like it's getting hung up right somewhere in this area. Whatever it is, it's right in here somewhere. I got a big scratch on here. Did I do that? I don't recall doing that. Maybe I just need to clean it. Yeah, I can't really see around it. I mean, the bottom is clear. Whatever we're dragging on, whatever we're hitting, a little bit baffling. It is supposed to slide out. This is not, according to the installation that we just watched, slides right in, should slide right out. The only thing that should be locking it in are the screws. So with the screws missing, what we're experiencing should not be happening. You see how I can wiggle it this much? See that? That tells me it's hung up over here. Somewhere over here is a problem. So I want to flip it to the other side because I don't want any of the ports to get stuck in these holes, right? Because that can hang us up. And if you notice when I'm sliding it, you can see where it stops. It's the same place every time. Looks like it might be getting caught on the rails instead of the case. Well, the rails come out with it. See what I'm saying? If you're talking about the rails it slides into, that was my thought, but it doesn't. Oh, maybe you just got to use a little brute force and push past it. So I guess you're right. That's exactly what was happening. So that's your housing. It's a big old piece of metal. It's very strong, and you're not going to bend this. It's not. You can stand on this probably. It's not going to. You aren't going to misshape it or anything. It's a pretty nice thick piece of metal, whatever this metal is. So, in the meantime, taking a look at the device itself, this is your motherboard. This is your mini PC with your storage drives and RAM. I don't see a place for an wireless. So I thought, geez, you know, if it's just a regular mini PC motherboard, it would have a slot that's not being used for Wi-Fi. But no, this does not have it. In fact, let me get my other glasses on here. And I'll bring this up close to the camera and you can see it close up too. Just want to take a quick look-see. So these drives are going to slide in and attach to the controllers all the way in the back. Those controllers are attached to this circuit board right here. So there's no cabling. Circuit board goes straight down and it attaches here at this point to this circuit board, which is the motherboard, with these two big plastic connectors. And that's what's connecting our SATA controllers into the board. There's no cables to be loose. That's not the problem. This little cable here is what's connecting the power button and power LED to the motherboard. Just a little patch cable. That's the that wire, and then this one here is powering the CPU fan, which you can see right back there is the CPU fan. So those are your only two cables on this whole unit. Oh, three cables. This fan is also cabled. So two fan cables and a power LED cable. So I mean, it's put together very simply. I'm kind of inspecting slot 3's interface because I want to see if any of the pins are bent. Or any visual part that looks cracked or broken or misaligned, and it looks perfect. I don't see anything wrong with it. So let me bring it up to the camera and I'll show you close up what I'm looking at so you can see it close up too. So once we take the clothes off of it and we've got it naked and exposed, there's your cooling fan. There's really nothing behind it. That's just cooling the drives, and it seems like it's a nice big fan. It's not too loud. There's the power cable for the fan. Here's the power cable for the CPU fan, which if I hold this right, you can see back there. And then this cable over here is for the power button and LED that connects here. There's your NVMe #1 NVMe slot here, RAM, and then RAM slot here. Other than that, that's the whole unit. It's a very simple design, and this is all metal. So they're not going with cheap components here. Inside you can see the connectors that the drives are going to hook into. There's a few screws over here for the mounting bracket that uses screws to hold this in. So the bracket that holds this in is screwed in itself. Nothing on the top. Nothing else to see. And if you want to take the motherboard off, there's 4 screws. And this whole board separates from this metal cage. Just be careful that you unplug the wires. And then what's behind the fan is the back plane that all the drives are plugging into. Right? That's all these connectors you look at here are on this circuit board, and then this circuit board connects to the motherboard right here. You see these connectors? See all the solder points? This is the back plane, and this is where it's connecting. So there's no cables. I mean, I suppose I suppose this plugs in like a graphics card. This is a big plug. So if I pull on it, it'll probably show you that. You see that? And so if there's a connection issue in here, that would explain why drive 3 is not being seen. See that? But it was fine. I just exposed it to show you. It needs to be fully seated to make a good connection. Now, we don't have to put this back in the housing. If we want to experiment and we're careful, we could, you know, for example, lay it on its side. That way the fan can run and we're not blocking anything. And, you know, for funsies, we could put just one drive in slot 3. So I'm going to start with it unplugged, slot this in to number 3, and make sure it sits all the way flush and lock it in. So if the unit sits like this, and then our ports are here, and we put that drive in, this is the front, this is the power button. Let me move this out of the way. Don't want to drop that on your toe. And let's grab our HDMI cable again. I'm going to set it on this side so I have access to the ports. Don't try this at home unless you have money to burn. The Ethernet cable. And keyboard and mouse. There. Guess I just need power. Power brick. It's going to go all the way over here. Okay, and being careful not to short circuit anything. Don't touch this while it's on. Certainly don't let anything metal, even setting your glasses down, don't let the metal of the glasses touch the back of the board. You have to be very careful. It's not going to electrocute you, but it could short circuit the board, and then, you know, that's your fault. That's not a warranty issue if you do that to yourself. Let me hit the power button. Drive 3 is spinning. Let's go back over to HDMI 3. We should get the post here in just a second. Just give it a second. There it goes. And in theory, we should not see this drive. So let me grab my keyboard over here. And let's grab this mouse. And let's go to the command prompt. Run it as administrator. Oh. Disk part. List disk. Yep, does not see it. Perfect. So it is a consistent issue inherent to the board. There's nothing loose, there's nothing disconnected. Just to satisfy any final doubt, let's go ahead and shut it back off. Come back over to camera 1. Let's eject this out of the drive 3 slot and move it to the very bottom. That'll be slot 4 all the way in. Like so. And then we'll turn it back on. Where's that power button? Oh, it's on my side. Okay, turn this back on, and then we're going to come back over to the video output here. Get a power on self-test. back into Windows, and we should see this drive in any of the other slots but number 3. There it is. There it is. Okay, something is wrong with slot 3. So we'll reach out to the folks at ACEMAGIC and see what they want to do. Doesn't matter what drive we put in slot 3, it's not seeing it. Now I do recall we did get it to temporarily work, and I'd have to go back and watch the video again and see what I'm doing differently. But the fact is, it shouldn't require anything any different than the other 3. The fact that it does, even if we could get it to work, it's still not correct. It shouldn't be that finicky. Let's go ahead and shut it down and unplug it, because we don't want it left in this state for too long. It just opens and invites trouble. And had enough trouble today. So the first thing I want to do, once the fan is stopped, is pull power. That's it. Now we're okay. I also don't want to knock any of the screws loose. I've already got enough of those too. All right. All right, any final questions? I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up for today. It's been a 3.5-hour video. And, you know, we've made no changes here at the studio, and yet we have had 0 drop frames during today's live broadcast. We're doing 30 frames a second times 3 hours and 28 minutes of live video with not a single drop. That also verifies whatever the dropping issue is, it's not being caused at our end. It's happening by the ISP or by YouTube. Whatever that was seems to have been addressed, or at least, knock on wood, it's addressed permanently. Well, but just bear that in mind if you start to see drop frames in the future. There's nothing, you can tell us, but there's nothing we can do about it. We leave the studio settings alone for the network, for the streaming, and all of the configuration of OBS is always the same. So if the consistency of the quality of the output is changing, it's changing because of the ISP once the data gets in their hands, or from YouTube, or any of the route it's taking to get to YouTube. It's all out of our hands. And this is evidence, because we haven't changed anything, and today's broadcast has been 100%. W. Holmes says, now you get to test ACEMAGIC support. Absolutely. Brian Weber says, do I think it's a backplane or a motherboard issue? Yes. I don't know. I also don't know why we can't see the ASMedia controller in the BIOS. I don't believe ACEMAGIC had any new BIOS available. I don't see a download for it, but I'll just double check. We'll go back over to ACEMAGIC's website here. And yeah, it just shows there's a driver. It doesn't show a BIOS. In fact, I can even Google ACEMAGIC, wrong keyboard. Let me get this keyboard out of my way. And this mouse too. ACEMAGIC. I mean, it's a brand new unit. I can't imagine it didn't have a BIOS yet. To update the BIOS on your ACEMAGIC N3A NAS/mini PC, you will need to contact ACEMAGIC support directly at service@acemagic.com to request the specific firmware file for your R2544 processor model, as they do not publicly host BIOS files for download, and this is to prevent users from bricking their devices. That's an AI overview response, which seems dead on accurate. Perfect response from AI here. And that's exactly what we'll do after the show. Given it's a weekend, we may not hear back from them until Sunday night, their Monday, but we'll reach out to the PR people, not to the, I think what I'll do is reach out to the PR people first. And They're the ones who reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in reviewing this? We're going to go back to them and say, look, here's our video. Here's the problem we ran into. How should we proceed? I'm not going to dictate to a company what they need to do. I'm not going to say you need to send me another unit. I'm not going to say you need to let me send this back for repair. I'm not going to say you need to provide me with a BIOS update, because I'd be an idiot if I did that, and I hope none of you ever do that. If you knew what was going on, you wouldn't need to contact support. So let them do their job. Don't go to the doctor and tell the doctor what medicines to prescribe to you. It's not going to go over well. You might be right, but the doctor needs to do his or her job because they have an education you don't have. They have inside knowledge you don't have. And if you had it, you wouldn't need to see them. So my point is, show support respect, save yourself the attitude and frustration, and very calmly, with confidence, with, what's the word I want? Be earnest. Hi, I'm having a problem with this device. Here is what the problem is. What do you recommend I do to resolve the problem? Don't let your emotions get involved. Be earnest. Listen to them. When they say, have you tried turning it off and back on again? Don't be pissed off. A lot of times that is the solution for people who call in. That's the information you don't have. So when you're like, of course I plugged it back in, don't do that. Because all you're going to do is upset the person you're asking for help, and they're not going to want to help you anymore. If they're obligated to help you, they're going to make it as miserable for you as possible because you're making it miserable for them. Be nice, and they'll be nice in return. And that's universal across all support. Can you help me? Will you help me? Have you tried turning it off again? Yes, I have. That's it. In fact, I can try turning it off and on again right now if it'll make you feel better. If you want me to, I will. Don't argue. Just do it. You ask somebody for help and then you turn around and spit on them and tell them the help is stupid. They're not going to want to help you anymore. It's rude. It's entitled. And if you know so much, you figure it out. I got other people to help. If you don't want that attitude, don't give that attitude. So, okay, you want me to turn it off and on again? I've already done it, but I'll do it one more time. Now, nothing's changed. What do you recommend next? Well, now I want you to pull the drives out and move them around. I already did that. Doesn't matter. Okay, just do it. Okay, I've moved the drives around. Nothing has changed. What do I do next? Okay, next I want, and just do what they say. Humor them. And that will get you to a result faster, because when you're arguing and insulting and being defensive, you're no longer progressing. You've now stopped and paused all forward progression, and now it's just going to take you longer, and you're in a bad attitude, and you're not going to even be happy if they solve the problem. You're just going to, finally you gave me the answer I wanted. Geez, how dumb are you people? Don't do that to yourself. Relax. Enjoy the process. That's the problem. If you're not in the mood, put it off another day. Or have somebody else do it for you. Because you're in your own way when you behave that way. So if you're emailing or talking, talk respectfully, be earnest, be humble. And even though you know the answers to what they're asking, they don't know you know that. They don't know you at all. I've had people, real story, guy calls me up and he goes, listen, I'm at my mother's house. Her internet stopped working. What do you think it could be? And I said, well, unplug the cable modem and plug it back in again. He goes, yeah, I already did that. I go, well, the coaxial line that screws into the back of the cable modem, this is a cable modem? Yeah, it's a cable modem. Do me a favor and unscrew it and put it back on again. He says to me, Carey, I'm not an idiot. You know, I really thought you would have advice for me, you know, more advanced. But if that's how you're going to talk to me, and I said, I said, listen, I can't see what you're seeing, and you may not be seeing it. I'm not telling you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. If I was there, I'd ask you to step aside so I could just do it without the debate. Would you please humor me? I'm asking you. You're the one asking me for help. Now I'm asking you for help. Would you do as I asked, please? Okay, fine. I'm on hold. He comes back and he said, I am so embarrassed. I am so sorry. It looked like the cable was screwed in, but it was like on an angle, and it was only turned like half a turn. And once I went to grab the cable, it fell off into my hands. Everything's working fine now. I apologize. Thank you so much. And I said, not a problem. I understand. We're good. Everything's happy. Yep. All right. If you have any other problems, you know, this is not a customer. This is a friend. Call me. I'm always happy to help you. Put yourself in my shoes and how you would have responded to that when I was right the whole time. But I don't even know if I'm right when I'm guessing for myself. You have to verify. You cannot be so pig-headed that you can't be bothered to verify. Then don't do the work. You're not qualified for the work. You are not qualified. You are in over your head. If you immediately dismiss the advice you get from other people, you are unqualified for that position, and you should hire a professional, because clearly you don't have what it takes. Just accept it. And if you're not going to accept it, then act like a professional. You cannot say you are one and then not act like one. You can say you are not a professional and still act like a professional, but don't tell me you are and then turn around and not act like one. Say, you know what? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this kind of work. I don't have what it takes, or I'm not willing to put in what it takes to do the work. I'm okay with that. I mean, if you're 500 pounds, you look in the mirror, do you go, I'm super skinny? No, you're not. Okay. You believe whatever you want, but the minute you start imposing it on other people, I feel bad for the other people. Somebody asked for help. It wasn't my idea. They reached out to me. I'm just offering the help, not asking you to do anything extravagant or dangerous. It's very, very simple. And most of the time, and I want you to listen to these words very carefully, most of the time, 90% of the service calls that I get requested for, simple, simple. So don't take the attitude, what, are you telling me to turn it off and back on again? Don't you know who I am? I know you're on the phone with me asking for help, right? And now you want to question my help? I know exactly what the problem is. It's you. You're not going to get a lot of repeat customers if you speak that way to them. But that's what I want to just shake them. That movie Airplane, where they all get in a line to slap the girl having a panic attack. I'm next. One guy's got a baseball bat. Oh, gosh. It's a very challenging job sometimes, but I'm not going to do that to ACEMAGIC support. I'm going to say, I'm telling you how I do it. This is how a professional does it. This is the problem I'm having with the unit. Here's what I've tried so far to fix it. If you want to, offer that, usually it doesn't make any difference anyway. Please advise what I should do next. Open the door. Don't tell them what you think it is. Keep that to yourself. Make your own projections in your own head and keep your mouth shut. And if you were right all along, you can pat yourself on the back, and you didn't need to call support. So why did you call support if you were right? Or if you're right about, oh, it needs to be sent in, there's nothing I can fix, and you're right about that, that's okay. Then you can pat yourself. You don't need to boast about how right you were. Nobody cares. Just, if you're asking for help, accept the help that's being offered, or do without. And you'll find that your experience with support is a lot easier. It's not so frustrating. It's not so maddening when you stop defending the way you think. That, like, I want help, but I want it the way I want it. No. Maybe if you're paying for that, you can get it. But if it's free help, you're going to get it the same way everybody else does. So just be like everybody else. I don't know. That's why I'm calling. Should I send it in? Maybe. Let them decide. They're the only ones who are allowed to decide. If you're in your 30-day return period, just return it. If we ordered this off Amazon, we just send it back to Amazon for free and ask for an exchange. Send us another one. And if you're worried they're going to send you the same one, Amazon will say, no problem. Do you want us to send out the replacement now? And when you receive it, you can then take the box and put it in the new one's box. Then you know you got two different units, and you can send back the other unit. And Amazon says, if we don't get the unit back in 30 days, we're going to bill you for it. You're going to pay for it, right? Otherwise, you're a thief. But when you're dealing with a company directly, you know, let's say they're in Asia, do they have a depot here in the US we would send it to? See, I don't know anything about this with ACEMAGIC. And for all I know, ACEMAGIC's going to say, gee, Carey, did you try pushing this button? And I'm going to be like, I didn't know there was a button. Or did you try setting this BIOS setting? I didn't know. Or maybe they'll say, yeah, it's a new unit. We have a new BIOS. You can try it for us. Here's an email link to it, but it's not publicly available. Maybe that's the fix. That's why you need to let them do their job. That's what you asked them for. Now get out of the way. So that's what I'll be doing, and then I'll report back and tell you what we hear. Okay? We're not going to fight. We're not going to argue. We're not going to get upset. Unless, of course, they don't respond. If they ghost us, that's a different thing altogether. All right. Andy says, thank you, Carey and Mara, for another curiosity. Yeah. W. Holmes says it helps if you give short answers and not ramble on. For sure, because they'll stop listening. They'll just go, and they just wait for you to finish. It doesn't change. They're just waiting for their turn to tell you what they were going to tell you once you stop talking. Andy says he's still waiting to be gobsmacked by something new. Yeah, you're going to be waiting a while. Yeah, I don't think anything new is coming out because people don't have the money. So even if it came out and it was amazing, the number of people that would buy it would be significantly lower than, say, this time last year. But you give it some time. We'll get back to it. Andy says, thanks to ACEMAGIC for taking a chance on something out of the ordinary. Agreed. Absolutely. I appreciate what they're trying to deliver here. It's just how they're packaging it. And that's an easy problem to fix. You guys are caught up on this, the thing I was describing from the movie Airplane. Airplane. Search it on YouTube. Airplane movie slapping woman. Let's go over here and share the screen with you. Here's my window capture. Am I not getting any audio?
Anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here.
Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
I've got to get out.
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're wanted on the phone. Everything's going to be all
I don't think they'll pan back and show the line of people waiting to smack her. All right. Enough of that nonsense. Finally, I want to remind you about our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs. They're where we get our Windows and Office license keys. In fact, I thought I might be needing them on this. I didn't realize this had Windows 11 Pro already installed on it. We knew very little about this, only that ACEMAGIC's never released a NAS-type device before, and that's all I knew. And I didn't know if they were sending it bare bones or with RAM and storage, because they sell it either way. I'm grateful they sent it to us with RAM and storage. I appreciate them thinking of us and giving us an opportunity to review the unit. But had I needed to install Windows 11 Pro on this and I needed to buy a license key, I would have gone over to VIP-URCDKEYs, because that's where I get my keys, and I buy them at the same price in the same way I'm about to show you. Under every video that we make live here, you'll notice, like take this video for example, when you scroll down below the title of the video, underneath my name, there's this little box where it says more. And when you click on that, it shows you all the links for the product we're reviewing, along with the links to Windows 10, Windows 11, and even Office. Right now, they're offering Office 2024 at just a little over $13 for another couple of days. And in this example, I click on the link, it takes me directly to the site. And I hit the Buy Now button, which then requires me to log in. A login is free to create, but you need to have the login so they know where to send your download link and your product key to securely. Once you've done that, enter the coupon code Carey if you want to save some money. If you don't want to save any money, don't enter the coupon code. I always use my own coupon code because it takes 25% off the price. So using my coupon code, that Office 2024 becomes just a little over $13. Once you submit the order, then you just choose how you want to pay, and you pay for it like you would anything else online, no differently. Within 2 minutes of this, you should get an email that arrives with your download link and your product key and the instructions. If you have any problems, they have 6 months of free support. After the sale, reach out to them. If you still have any problems, reach out to me. If you do want to reach out to me for that or any other reason, this is my email address. I love hearing from you guys. If you have suggestions, comments, there's a product you want to see, we can try and grab it if we can get one. Things are really slow right now, so ideas are always welcome. May not be possible. There's no harm in asking. If you're having any technical issues yourself and you want to reach out to us for help, we're always happy to try our best to help you as well. You're always welcome to send us an email. showcasecreate@gmail.com, and Sable the cat right there at the right over there. She'll make sure your email gets responded to right away. She's got to earn her rent somehow, you know what I mean? She's a stray cat living indoors now. Nothing's free. You got to earn your way around here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to our friend Buster. Thank you for all the gifts and the lighting. Hopefully the next time I go live, I won't have these shadows anymore. Thanks to Buster. And I shouldn't be shy of any pens for a while. He's got us set up with pens and markers. And of course, we're going to root for Scotland in the World Cup soccer, because why not? We have a lot of Scottish viewers. I'm with you. Soccer is not a big thing here in the USA. It certainly wasn't even a thing in Michigan in the 70s. We didn't even discuss it. Now it's gaining more popularity, and especially here in the southern states when we're closer to Mexico, where that stuff is followed much more like American football, right? So we're seeing more and more interest in the Phoenix area and in the southern states due to the immigration of folks from the southern countries. But that being said, it is gaining in popularity. I've never watched a game in my life, but if I find out Scotland is playing and I can tune in, I'll definitely try and catch the last couple minutes of it. And hey, let's root for Scotland. Why not? I think it'd be great. Because if some country I never heard of wins, what do I care? Thank you, Buster. Thank you to everybody in green for making these videos possible, and for ACEMAGIC for sending us this unit for review that we've dissected live on camera. And we appreciate everybody involved. That's how this community works. Cooperation from the manufacturers, from our members and our audience, and from myself, that we're all here together, not to fight, not to argue. We can share our differences of opinion. That's all well and good. But more importantly, sharing our interest overall and our passion for the technology, or just our passionate curiosity for what's the latest and greatest. Given that it is latest and greatest, typically things are a little rough around the edges when something's brand new, or what we call first generation. And I think we might be touching on that a little bit here. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here that some refinement is still needing to be done, especially in the message of what they're selling. You know, are they selling a mini PC or are they selling a NAS? And I think that that message could be clearer. The idea that they're saying one of these ports is 1 gig and one is 2.5 gig is a prime example that's very obvious and verifiable of a mistake. Probably a copy and paste kind of mistake. And obviously they're not aware of it. I don't think they're doing it with intention. They don't know. So we bring it to their attention. And they'll likely address the marketing materials to represent this clearer. All right? And hopefully when that gets done and we're able to take another look at it, these issues are resolved. Usually I have to go through a couple of rounds of a modern technological product. It's complicated to get all of the polishing and refinements done, and that's part of the process. But if you want to be first, if you want to be one of the early reviewers, or you want to be an early adopter, but you don't like this process, then don't do that. Don't be an early adopter. Wait a year and then buy it. And more than likely, all those issues will be resolved by then. So it just depends on your particular attitude. If you enjoy figuring things out and working with a manufacturer, or if you don't have time for that nonsense, you want something, take it out of the box and start using it, make sure you buy something that's been on the market at least 1 year, and you should avoid all of the hangups of first-gen products. That includes cars, too. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you all again Sunday. We've got a mini PC from, ironically, coincidentally, AOOstar. So we hope you'll join us for that review on Sunday, 1 o'clock Phoenix time, as always. Until then, oh, and a thank you to Mara, our channel administrator. She did a great job on today's thumbnail, plus all of the links, and working with ACEMAGIC to even get this here on our desk. Without her, this wouldn't have happened. So thank you to Mara, as always, for all the work she does behind the scenes. It's often thankless. Now, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. We'll see you on Sunday. Bye for now.